Shalom, shalom. Welcome once again to the d.c.b channel. My name is Levy. We're here tonight, and tonight is very special show. Very, very special show. And I want us all to first and foremost, I want to give glory to the one who gives us all, the creator of heaven and earth. Yehovah is his name. And unto him and him alone do we give honor, glory, and praise. We almost say Todah Yah for everything that he does for us, everything that he continues to do for us. This God is magnificent, creator of heaven and earth. This God is magnificent. So I'd like to thank this great king for life, food, clothing, and shelter. Just want to know, how is everyone feeling out there on internet land? Is everyone feeling good? How was your Shabbat meal? How was is the audio good on both ends? Tonight is going to be a special show. We have a specially invited guest. He will be joining us on at 8 o'clock. All right, 8 o'clock. He'll be joining us on, and when he's ready to join us, then we will go to him immediately when he's ready to join us. So 8 o'clock. I just want to make sure my volume and everything is good, it's straight, that everyone can hear me clearly. You can hear me clear. Please give me a 1. Hey, ¿qué pasa, hermana? My little sister's is watching the stream. Samira. She has a Hebrew name. She's watching all the way from Panama. ¿Cómo está, Samira? Bendiciones, hermana, y a toda la familia allá en Panamá. Que Dios lo bendiga. So to everybody here, we having a special show, and and this is going to be we always give the glory to the creator, and we always think of Yah first. And you put Yah first in everything that we do. I want to thank God for the life of my family. I'd like to thank Yah for food, clothing, and shelter. Shalom, Chad, my brother from another mother. May the Most High God be with you, my brother. And sometimes the Most High, he puts us through situations, and he does things to us in our lives for us to realize or to see ourselves a little bit closer. So we also, we have to give glory unto him. I want to send out a prayer for our sister Beulah in Chicago, Illinois, that the Most High God be with her. And love you too, hermana. Our sister Beulah in the state of Illinois, who's going through a tug of war with her boss. We send up prayers for her and her children. She always asks me to pray for them. And on this day, I ask that everyone prays for them and keep them strong and keep them protected. Also, that the Most High God be with. I want to send out a very special prayer to a sister who's really going through a really, really tough illness, and we all need to keep her in our prayers. And that's our sister Kivsa Bat Levy, Bat Ima Katora. She's the sister of Chief Mekubadia from our congregation, Misharet Arania from our congregation. Really, really, really tough illness. And right now we know that the creator of heaven and earth, he's the healer of us all. And if we send up prayers to him, and if we do it with sincereness of mind, and we have changes in our minds and our hearts, that God, nothing is too short for God to do, or that is nothing that the Most High God cannot do. So I say that to say this. I've seen situations. I always use this example. Chief Elquani, he has a brother. I think it's a younger brother, and the doctors, I believe it was his liver. They said we can't do nothing for him. We can't give him any transplant. We're gonna just put him in a hospice and wait for him to pass away. And what happened to that man? They put him in the hospice. His liver regenerated, and I believe that he's still alive today, healthy, with his strength. And I say that to say this. You know, people write you off. They say that that's it. You can't make it. But if we put our trust in the Most High God, and we are people who say that we believe in the Most High God and the Creator, and that we live by His laws. But if we put our trust in the Most High God and we believe it, and we have faith and trust in Him, then He will deliver us. So let's keep our sister Kivsa Bat Cohen Levy in our prayers as she goes through her sickness, and we pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will have mercy upon her in her life and give her strength to continue on, because it's a tough thing. That family already lost a brother and a son last year, Rocklear. So let's keep our sister in prayer, because we do know that prayers help. Hallelujah. So just thanking everyone for joining in. I'm waiting for Rabbi Sholomo. He's going to join in when he's ready. He has a presentation. He has some stuff. Shabbat Shalom, Mervin Boucher. Shabbat Shalom to you. So yeah, he has a presentation that he's going to bring forth. He has a PowerPoint, everything ready, and we're going to make a series out of this, because he's very he's enthused about the prospects of doing this, and he's really grateful. Oh, by the way, I upgraded my internet service, so as you can see, it's a little smoother thing. It's not coming out as choppy over here, especially in my on the d.c.b channel end. All right, it should be coming out a little bit smoother. It shouldn't be that much of a delay. Well, let me see who's in the live stream on that d.c.b channel. I know all my peoples is in there, so let me give my peoples a shout out. Let me go in there, trying to just kill some time before the rabbi come in. Now, I've been promoting this as we're going to hear scholarship tonight, not hollership. When I finish going through the credentials of this man, you're going to see what I mean, what the Most High God has blessed this man to accomplish. And sometimes we have diamonds right in the midst of us, but because we don't search it out, we never find it. So after I go through his credentials, I'm sure that you also will be amazed. I mean, if you read the description, what I posted about him on the description, then you can see all his credentials there. It's extensive. So we're talking about one of our own who has accomplished a lot in his life. So let me see who we got here. Shabbat Shalom Shemariah, I've read Yisrael, Deborah B, Hebrew sister, Hey, shalom, Ima. How you doing? Imo Kaskuya, Shabbat Shalom. D. Dina, Shabbat Shalom. Yona Ben Yisrael, Shabbat Shalom. Yerusha Yehuda, Shabbat Shalom. Kasedia Yehuda, Shabbat Shalom. Merv Yisrael, Shabbat Shalom. Marsha Bryce, Shabbat Shalom. Josette Anderson, Shabbat Shalom. Shay Yaakov, Shabbat Shalom. So I know a lot of y'all came on early, ready to go, because you're ready for this history, right? I'm ready for this history also. And he done this before when we were at Shema, but he didn't have the ability to do a PowerPoint. So now you can actually see all the people that started this movement within this part of the diaspora in America. So I'm just waiting, just like the rest of us, for the rabbi to join in. He told me he would join in by 8 o'clock. He said he could give us an hour from 8 to 9. So we're gonna make the best out of that hour, and we're gonna go from there. So I got someone over here sending me messages right in the middle of me doing what I'm doing, but it's okay. Oh, okay. I haven't heard from this sister. All right. Oh, it's Ima Naami. All right. I haven't heard from her in a while. Maybe she could join us tonight. But yeah, so in the meanwhile, let us open up the book, read a little bit. So like I said, let's keep our sister in our prayers. We should always keep each other in our prayers. And if anybody needs prayer, just write it in the Shabbat Shalom, my brother Itamar, down there in Atlanta, GA. May the Most High bless you and your family on this holy Shabbat day, my brother. Shabbat Shalom to my brother Jonah Ben Yisrael. May the Most High God be with you also. Hannah Miller Witherspoon, may the Most High God be with you and your family. So, if you know anyone that needs any prayer, just write a name up there. Let me know, and we'll send up some prayers for them. Just write the names up there. Let me see here. Got this funny acting app, this Hebrew English app. All right, the writings, Psalms. Shalom, shalom. Lena, how you doing, sis? May the Most High God be with you. Right now, we're waiting for the rabbi to come on. He said he will come on from 8 to 9. So as soon as he gets on, we're gonna get it. As we say, we're gonna get it popping. I know some elders don't like when I use the slang talk, but it's okay. I want to read. There's a psalm here. Psalms 91. It reads, He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, who abides under the shadow of the Almighty, will say to Yahweh, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. It says, for he shall save you from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings shall you find refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you behold and see the reward of the wicked, because you, O Yahweh, are my refuge. You have made the Most High your habitation. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near you, your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. They shall carry you up in their hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread on the lion and on the adder. The young lion and the crocodile shall you trample underfoot. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore I will save him. I will set him on high, because he knows my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will save him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Hallelujah. So we're talking about the salvation of the Most High, the creator of heaven and earth, and the protection that he gives us. This is a special God, a special king. And we thank the Most High God for his protection upon us. Very special, it says right here. It says, verse 9, it says, because you, O Yahweh, are my refuge, you have made the Most High your habitation. Right? So what it says, because you, O Yahweh, are my refuge, you have made the Most High your habitation. So once we make the Most High our habitation, our dwelling place, then we are protected in that cocoon of the Most High. So it's imperative for us to make the Most High our habitation so that we can have that protection. You get what I'm saying? And once we get that protection from the Most High God, then even if something tries to come against us, it won't overtake us because we have the protection of the Creator. It says, no evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling place. Why? Because our dwelling place is the Most High. That's our habitation. So those are the things that we keep in mind. Those are the things that we keep in our thoughts, that God, Yahweh, will always protect us. You know, Yah Elohim, he will always protect us. He will always be with us. He will always guide us. He will always watch over us if we make him our dwelling place. So these are the things that we have to keep in mind. These are the things that we have to keep in our thoughts, you know, as we walk every day. Whatever befalls us, we have to put Yah first. We have to put Yah first. And if we put Yah first, Yah will always protect us. Now, that don't mean that it's not going to come a day when we got to leave up out this earth. We all leave out of this earth. But, you know, the thing about that is that the Most High made us as people to serve him. We're put on this earth to glorify God. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to glorify God. Everything else that he created, that he has created, gives him glory in the job that they do. So when he says wind blow, it blows. If he said blow harder, it blows harder. You know, when the birds fly, when certain things happen on the earth, everything is given the Most High God his due. We're the only creature that's created that has the free will to choose between right and wrong, and we're the ones that mostly go against the command of the Creator. So us as the children of Israel, we have to reverse that psychology. We have to reverse that way of thinking and give the Most High the credit that's due unto his name, and following the law, statutes, and commandments that are set there for us to do. So, for he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. His angels is his messengers. He shall give them charge over us to watch over us and protect us. So we have those protective angels that watch over us when we're doing the right thing, when we walking according to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yah. Then those angels appear, and they're always continually there over us, watching us, helping us to guide us. We don't see them, but when we going down a path, they direct us differently. When you rushing to get out the house and make you forget your key, and you run back into the house and you can't find the key in your house, it takes you about 5 minutes, then you finally realize that you left it in the pocketbook from yesterday. And then you run out. And then as you run out and you drive along, you realize that on the same route that you go, there's a car flipped over and there's 2 dead people in there. Maybe God prevented you from getting in that accident, so he made you forget your key. That's not far-fetched. That's how God works. That's how he works. So those are the things that we have to keep in mind. Sometimes we get frustrated, we get angry, but we don't know what Yah is saving us from, what the Creator is saving us from. So those are things that we have to keep in mind. That's the sort of understanding that I have and that I look at and that I always consider. So, yeah, that's the way you got to think, Nate Jones. That's the way you got to think. You got to always consider that God is always there. Even in the book of Deuteronomy, it says that let's go there real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting from verse 4. If you will please go with me to the Torah. Now, the book of Deuteronomy is Moses reiterating the Torah, repeating the Torah, what the Most High had already given to the nation of Israel. It says, verse 1. We're going to start from verse 1. Now, these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Jehovah your God commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land to which you are going to possess. And it reads, it says, now these are the commandments, the statutes, the judgments, Jehovah your God commanded to teach you that you might do them. So it's a command for us to do the laws, statutes, and commandments, right? It says that you might fear Jehovah your God and keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you and your son and your grandson and all the days of your life, that you and that your days may be prolonged. So it's a command that and if we keep the commandments, then we will have long life. Not live forever, but have long life. So now it reads, hear therefore, O Yisrael, and take care to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Jehovah, God of your fathers, has promised you, and the land that flows with milk and honey. So this was the promise as we were going into the land of Canaan, that if we kept the law, statutes, and commandments, remember the Most High God told us to get rid of 7 nations. Of course, through history, we didn't do that, but we were supposed to get rid of them. So if we would have kept all the commandments, that was part of the commandments, to get rid of these nations gradually, and not to join onto them and not to make marriages with them, but we went along and we did that anyway. So that cost us in the long run. Now, verse 4, this is when it begins to get interesting. It says, hear, O Yisrael, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That's the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahovah Eloheinu, Yahovah Echad. Right? He is one. So this is where we don't couple God's name with anyone else. This is the foundation where it begins, to where we do not in prayer couple his name with anyone or give anyone else credit or credence to any type of power except Yah. Yah is the only one that gets that. No one else gets that. No one else gets that. Not from me, not from many. It shouldn't be from anyone else. But the mistake that many people do is that they allow other things to come into the picture. You allow other things to come into the picture, because a lot of people don't read. You don't read Torah. They said out with the old, in with the new. But the old is the foundation. Without the old, you have no laws. You have no statutes. You have no commandments. So if the old is no good anymore, then that means that I could lay with your wife. Then that means that I could murder someone, and as long as I ask for forgiveness, that I'll be forgiven. That's not how the laws of God work. These laws are there to govern people, and many nations have taken up these laws and have created their judicial system around these laws, statutes, and commandments that the Most High God left here on record. So we can't shun them away. We can't say that we're not supposed to do them, that it's not good for us, or any of those things. We have to adhere to these laws. We have to adhere to the Torah of the Most High God, and we have to acknowledge that He is one. You can't mix Him in with anyone else. You can't mix Him up and say that He's a Trinity, or He's this or He's that. He stands alone, and He's a jealous God. And those are the things that we have to keep in mind. Can you imagine if your child came to you and told you that you're not their parent, that such and such and such down the block is their parent? So think about it in those terms, how God feels when we give His glory to another, right? Those are the things that we have to keep in mind. Verse 5, and you shall love Yahweh your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. Did it say love anyone else? It says love Yahweh your God with all your, it says, and you shall love Yahweh. Wherever you see that word Lord in Hebrew, in English, in Hebrew is the tetragrammaton, the Yod He Wav He, the name of the Creator, which means the past, the present, and the future. The only reason why it's not written in English is because, just to put respect on the name, they just put Lord there. But a lot of people confuse that Lord with something else or someone else. But when you read it in the Hebrew, it gives the name of the Creator, which was Yod He Wav He, which is Yahweh, which is Yahweh. However we say it, we understand that we're talking about that supreme being, that one that created the heavens and the earth. So it says that you shall love Him. That Yod He Wav He shall love Him, your God, right? And it says, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. You can only love one entity like that, and that's Yah. And that's Yah. You don't even love your spouse that way. You don't even love your children that way. Only Yah can you love like that. Only Yah. It says, and these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. These words shall be in your heart. Meaning in here and in here. We got to learn these things. We have to be walking Torah. We have to be walking Tanakh. These words have to be ingrained in us. I do want to give due respect to a teacher that's no longer with us, but I seen the job that he did with his students. And that's the late Moreh Elisha Ben Yisrael. If you go to Moreh Elisha or you see any one of Moreh Elisha's students, they are well versed in whatever it is that he taught. They could, if it's the night and day thing, they know all the points to take you to, Now, I'm not saying that I agree with the night and day thing, but I'm just telling you that if you go to them slouching, that they will hand you something over. And now, shalom, shalom. Rabbi? All right, I need you to Rabbi, I need you to just close out your screen with the little where it says leave call at the top, and then rejoin us, because you're coming through sounding like Alvin and the Chipmunks. And it must be a glitch or something going on. So just close out and come back in with the same link that I send you. All right. The rabbi seems to be having some difficulty with what he's hopefully when he comes back in, we won't. I hope that we're not having this problem with his computer all night tonight. I just hope it was like a connection glitch at this point, because he has a lot of stuff to bring forth today. So we got the Facebook Live going. We got this going. Shalom, shalom, Rabbi. Wow, I wonder what's going on here, because we're still getting this difficulty with you sounding like really, really like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Do you have the same setup from the other day? All right, let me see what's going on here. All right, let me try to find out what's going on here, because Rabbi, unmute your mic. Can you speak again and see how it comes across? Shalom, Rabbi. Can you unmute your mic? I muted your mic, but I can't unmute it. You have to unmute it yourself. Right at the top.
I see that.
Oh, now we're clear. Here we go.
Is that much better?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. That you're coming across very clear now.
Okay, wonderful. And
all right.
So
we already have 55 viewers. So let me do a brief introduction of you to the audience, so that we can get started. Hello?
Yes, and you can see the presentation?
Yep, I can see everything. So just let me do a brief presentation of you to the audience, and then that way I could get out the way, and you could get started.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters of the Israelite community, tonight we're here with Rabbi Sholomo Levy, son of the late Chief Rabbi Levy Ben Levy. Rabbi Sholomo entered the Israelite Rabbinical Academy in 1981 at the age of 17. Part of his rabbinic studies were completed at Tel Aviv University in the land of Israel. In 1985, Rabbi Sholomo graduated from the Israelite Academy and was ordained a rabbi at the age of 21. In 1986, Rabbi Sholomo received a bachelor's degree from Middlebury College in Vermont. He received a master's degree from Yale University in 1988, a master's in African American Studies. At the age of 24, Rabbi Sholomo became the spiritual leader of Congregation Beth Elohim, which is located in Saint Albans, Queens, New York. In 2005, Rabbi Levy received a master's degree in philosophy from Columbia University in American history. He is the president of the International Israelite Board of Rabbis. He is the editor of the website blackjews.org. In the 90s, Rabbi Levy taught college courses on American and African American history at LaGuardia Community College, the Brooklyn campus of Long Island University, Medgar Evers College, and Middlebury College. He has been married since 1999 with his lovely wife, Raya. From 2002 to 2005, Rabbi Levy worked at Harvard University in the W.E.B. Du Bois Institute of the Department of Afro-American Studies as an associate editor of African American Lives, 2004, and the African American National Biography, a 10-volume reference work. I want you all to please give a warm welcome to our invited guest tonight, Rabbi Sholomo Ben Levy. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Rabbi, finally.
And let me say to the assembled audience this evening, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach to those of us who are preparing to welcome the season of Hanukkah, which reminds us of dedication and perseverance. I thank you for the invitation to participate in this forum. I have been watching your efforts both online and forums like Facebook, and the things you've been doing and using this new technology to reach out to our people and to educate them about our history, ancient and present, is wonderful. Of course, for those of you who don't know, we have been friends for many years, and I've always admired and respected the work that you do. And I'm happy and honored and humbled tonight to be a part of this conversation about the history of our people.
Hallelujah, Rabbi. And I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions because I might know the answers to some of these things, but I just wanted to share just before we get started with the actual presentation. So, first question that I have for you is, how did your love for history begin? Because it seems like you're a history teacher, and you teach American history as well as Afro-American history. How did that love for history begin in you?
Right. Well, that's a good question. And for me, it started at the youngest age. As an Israelite, history had always been central to our identity, how we even came into the knowledge of who we are as Israelites, which really began with my parents, who are from Fayetteville, North Carolina. My grandfather was a deacon in a Baptist church in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And when my parents moved to New York in the 1950s, they got involved with what was then called the Black Jews of Harlem, which was led by Chief Rabbi W.A. Matthew. And for a person from the South in the 1950s, he had no knowledge of the history that we're talking about tonight belonging to our people. Like so many people of African descent, they assumed that both Christianity and Judaism were white religions, were European religions, and they were just practitioners in it. And so his introduction to the God of Israel came hand in hand with the study of history and knowledge. I've since learned that this is not just unique to his experience, but when you look at our Torah, when you look at our faith, our Torah is not just a list of laws. It is, to a certain extent, a history book, right? Very often, the Torah gives genealogies so that we would know our history. Even our festivals and our holy days and holidays are commemorations of historical events. So we are, an historical people with a long historical memory. The Torah says, "Lo tishkach," thou shalt not forget. Zakor Yom HaShabbat lechacha, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So knowledge of events is, crucial to us as a people, but especially to my family and to Israelites as a whole. I would say, in addition, that I grew up in the company of people like the late Dr. Yosef Ben Yaakov, Dr. Ben, as he was commonly known, who was a close friend of my father's. And so I knew historians from the time that I was knee-high, sitting around the table as people discussed and debated history. It was part of my DNA, almost, so to speak. And I also think the transition into academia helped me because it taught me the importance of studying from the time that I was young. Not only did I have to go to school and study my regular subjects in school, I would come home from school and we would study Hebrew. I was studying for my bar mitzvah while I was in junior high school and high school, taking Spanish and French. I was also learning Hebrew in the synagogue. And so we were always the people who were studying. Friends would visit my house and ask questions like, why is there a blackboard in your living room? And I didn't see that as like unusual, you know, like everybody has a blackboard in the living room. But of course, my living room was a place where people met, where they discussed, they debated. Of course, my father would teach classes from his home.
Right.
Some of the people who would visit him that time was the late Coin Levy, you know. I was so young at the time, but I remember them sitting at the table, you know, discussing and debating and sometimes arguing and a lot of times laughing, you know. But it was a serious home where there were always books, people always talking about knowledge and facts. It helped me in school in another way. Often on Shabbat afternoons, the young people would get to speak. And we would get up, and rather than give speeches, we would either read Psalms, and sometimes some of particularly the older mothers of the congregation would say it by heart, or if you could memorize a Psalm and say it without reading the book, that was considered better than just reading the words. And so at a young age, I began to like memorize entire verses and passages of scripture by heart. And I discovered that by training my mind to do that, that it helped me in my academic subjects. So when I would study secular history, or I would be studying algebra or biology or whatever the subject was, the only thing that was different was the content. The method, you study the same way, you commit things to memory, you train your mind. And this is why Israelites, like our European brothers, are supposed to excel in every field that we're in. So we take that knowledge and study of Torah, and we just apply it to whatever it is we're doing. So if you're studying, if you're going to be history, then you should be at the top of your field. If you're studying accounting or, you know, whatever profession you choose, the Torah says you should be the head and not the tail. And so we're gifted, and we train our children from the early age to do this. That was my experience, and it's helped me in life. And I recommend that particularly a lot of our self-trained scholars and organic intellectuals, meaning people who may perhaps didn't receive formal academic training at a college university, but who are very well read and learned and knowledgeable. And I grew up, you know, interacting with people of both kinds. I learned early not to judge people by their degrees, but by their depth of knowledge. And so I think these are the things. And that's why we've tried to maintain the school. There's like Rabbinical Academy, where people could have places within our own community where they could feel comfortable studying these topics. Your brother and a predecessor to me on this program, Chief Benjamin Ben Benjamin, will be graduating from the Israelite Rabbinical Academy just next month. And he'll be earning his degree as a rabbi, which just means master of the Torah. But this is just a long history, some of which we're going to get in tonight, of educating our people and training them both formally and informally.
Thank you very much, Rabbi, for that explanation. I have another question before we move right ahead into tonight's topic. How did you handle the pressures of being a spiritual leader of a congregation after just becoming a rabbi at the tender age of 24?
Right. Yeah. I would say, first of all, I had a lot of help and a lot of assistance. I grew up in the presence of great rabbis, not just my father, Sholomo Levy, but all the great rabbis of that generation I knew. Most of them are no longer with us, but Rabbi Yohanatan, Rabbi Paris, Rabbi Poinsett, Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Masia Yehuda, Rabbi Brooks' father. Rabbi Casey Yeshurun was the dean of the academy when I was a student there. So I had good examples. I had role models growing up. So I didn't have to figure out or guess, what is a man supposed to do? What is a rabbi supposed to do? What is a husband supposed to be like? What is a father's role in the family? I had role models and examples. And so the challenge was just to try to live up to what I knew to be true. And also, I think that the teachings, the Talmud says that one should combine the study of Torah with the worldly occupation. And the reason it says that is, although you want to be engrossed in your studies, you don't want to be ensconced in an academic world to the extent that you lose touch with the challenges of real life and the pressures that real life people have to go through. So that's either, you're in the synagogue all the time, you're in the library all the time, and you don't understand what real people are going through. So the Talmud says that you should balance that. Now, a lot of rabbis today of larger, more wealthier congregations, that's their full-time job. But in the Israelite community, most of our congregations are very small. And so the rabbis had to have their own professions to support themselves and their family. So growing up, I knew that I was going to be a rabbi. There's a kind of dynastic expectation that if you're a rabbi, that your sons will follow in your footsteps. And so I became a rabbi, and my brother, Rabbi Binyamin Levy, also became a rabbi. I have a son, Levi. He's only 10, but he already knows that I expect him to be a rabbi, and without too much pressure. But there's the expectation that you'll follow in the steps of your fathers who've gone before you. And so I did that, and I always tried to balance, serving the community with pursuing my life ambitions and careers secular. And I was able to combine both, for me, luckily, in choosing academia, where I could actually teach and write about the things that I'm interested in spiritually. So my area of expertise, when I write and when I publish, is the intersection of race and religion in America. And so a lot of the articles that I wrote at Harvard for the encyclopedia were biographies of Rabbi Ford. I wrote the biography of Rabbi Matthew, and being on the board deciding who should be included in the encyclopedia put me in a position to say, are these people going to be in the book? Right? We need to have adequate representation of Israelites, as well as all the Christian leaders and Muslim leaders who are covered. And sometimes, editors and publishers, the book was published by Oxford University Press, they didn't know who these people were until I told them who they were and why they should be in the book. And then the question was, well, who's going to write that biography? And so then I said, well, I'll be happy to write those. And so I've been able to combine what I do spiritually with what I do professionally. And that's been a good harmony.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi. So let's get going with what we came to do tonight, and a lot of people are waiting. We have 63 people viewing on YouTube, and we have about 10 people viewing on Facebook Live. So that makes the audience about 73 people watching us at this moment. So whenever you're ready, you could go ahead with the presentation, and I'll just listen, just like the rest of the audience.
Okay. And, tonight I'm just going to talk about two rabbis, Rabbi W. Matthews, who you see on your screen now, and Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford. And I hope that this will not be the last time that I'm invited to the program. So perhaps in future programs, I could talk about other rabbis of the 1950s and 60s and talk about contemporary issues of what's happening in our community today. But tonight, I want to kind of go back historically, and also, always keeping in mind the Torah Sidra. Tonight, in many of our synagogues, tomorrow we'll be discussing the Torah Sidra Vayishev, embracing the book of Genesis. And to make a connection to what we are talking about tonight, our history, is so much of the Torah takes place on the continent of Africa. And this week in the Torah, Joseph, the son of Jacob, goes into the land of Egypt, where, among other things, he will become a slave. Then he will become a governor of Egypt. He will marry an Egyptian woman. And we will spend 430 years, the next 430 years in Egypt, and emerge as a people. The next book of the Torah, Exodus, in Hebrew, it means Shemot. Shem means name. And so Shemot begins, these are the names. And it lists 70 names of the people who went into Egypt. And so we start from those 70 people, and in the course of 430 years, become a nation of people. So the nation of Israel, we go into Egypt as a family, and we come out 400 years later as a nation. That means all the Israelites who ultimately settled in Israel were born in Africa. And although this should be obvious and plain from just simply reading the story, it's often missed. And so the rabbis we're talking about tonight really brought the knowledge of that to the people of the early 20th century. Rabbi W. Matthews, you see on the screen here, he was, according to my research, born on the island of St. Kitts in the Caribbean. He came to the United States, and he had knowledge of himself as an Israelite through their oral traditions. And that doesn't mean that they were not, subject to colonization. Barbados was in St. Kitts and Jamaica. All of these were British colonies, and their ancestors had been brought there as slaves, and part of the enslavement process, conversion to Christianity. But many of them never lost an oral tradition, history of who they were. And so the question was, how are you going to regain that? How are you going to express that again? And so when he came to the United States, he lived in Harlem, and he started a congregation in 1919. So in 2019 would be our centennial, our first 100 years as a people in the United States with organizations and congregations, almost 100 years. And he started this congregation, and he called it Commandment Keepers, Ethiopian Hebrew Congregation. And calling it that meant that these commandments, we are the people of the book. We are the people who God gave the Torah to. And these are the statutes, the laws, the commandments, the mitzvot that we are supposed to be observing, such as observing Shabbat, such as eating kosher food, such as observing the festivals. All of these laws that are found in the Torah, I said these were given to us. We are those people, and we should be observing them, living that life as it is supposed to be. The picture you see here with him holding the Sefer Torah establishes him as a man of great knowledge and wisdom, a visionary, because it's one thing to know these things historically, just simply as historical facts. And many, particularly of my Black nationalist brothers, colleagues, and scholars would acknowledge the things that I just said about the African origins of the Jewish faith, and therefore, because of that, the Christian faith as well. But That being said, they don't then feel that they have to observe that, live those laws. They say, okay, those people are black, and so are people in other parts of the African continent were also black. And so they're just happy and proud to know that. But for us, it's not just an historical reality. For us, it is our identity of who we are supposed to be now, just not acknowledgement of who we were then. And so if we're going to practice it now, how is that going to be done? And so he recognized that certain things had been lost in the interim because of slavery, such as knowledge about language, and that had to be regained. That the Torah and the Tanakh only provided part of the rituals and practices because the Torah says that they would be Leviim, Levites, who would actually officiate and perform the services. So those religious leaders were supposed to know who, what, and how, right? So the Torah is not a do-it-yourself book, like a cookbook, meaning you don't need a teacher. You don't need someone who actually knows what they're making, right? It is a set of instructions, but it's a set of instructions that makes sense in the hands of a person who is familiar, who have actually seen, the practices. And so for that, Rabbi Matthews recognized that there were certain things that we had to learn from those who did not go through the slave experience and did not lose all knowledge of these things. And that referred particularly to some of our European brothers. And some things that they preserved, some things perhaps were changed or added from Europe. But there are two groups of Israelites, those who have been lost and need to return, and those who were the remnant who may have been persecuted but never lost all of their identity. And so there was a relationship there. Now, the person who helped him in that regard was the next rabbi I'm going to talk more about, because he's the one who ordained Rabbi Matthews and gave him the shmicha, that is certificate of ordination. If I could move to my next slide, let's see. Can you still see this slide?
Absolutely, we can see everything.
Okay, because I can't see anything. I made it full screen, but as long as you see it, that's the important thing.
I see Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford.
Right.
That's who I see next.
Now he is really Rabbi Matthews' teacher. They are contemporaries in terms of living at the same time. As you see, he was born in 1877. Rabbi Matthews was born in 1892. So Rabbi Matthews was really older than Rabbi Ford. But Rabbi Ford grew up in Barbados. And he immigrated to the United States. He was also a musician. And so like how and why they came to the United States, often in search of jobs and careers, part of a whole pattern of thousands of immigrants from the Caribbean. So Rabbi Matthews coming from St. Kitts, Rabbi Ford coming from Barbados. You had people like Marcus Garvey, who's the central figure in Harlem at the time, coming from the island of Jamaica. Many of them are coming to the United States after World War II in search of jobs and careers. Just as, again, if I could make the parallel to the Torah Sudra today, Vayishev, how God brought Joseph to Egypt wasn't clear to him until near the end of the story when he said, God brought me here to save life. In the beginning, he comes to Egypt as a slave, sold into slavery by his own brothers, and then first try to kill him, and they throw him in a pit. Then the Ishmaelites carry him into Egypt. And so he winds up there in Egypt as a slave and then into jail. And so, again, we see a pattern, how we got to this country at different points in our history, how and why people came here. Only in the end could we see that this was part of God's divine plan to bring them there. Black people are coming by the thousands from the Caribbean, and people like my parents are moving from the South to the North. And they all meet in the same time, in the same place, in the 1920s in Harlem. In African-American history, we call this the Harlem Renaissance, the rebirth, because you have, so many writers like James Baldwin. Baldwin was really 1950s, but he's born in Harlem in this period. But people like Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, artists, musicians, playwrights. And so you have this concentration of people all in Harlem at the same time. And Rabbi Ford is first part of the musical tradition. He plays a number of instruments, including the violin and the bass. He gets involved with other musicians like Willie the Lion Smith, who was also an Israelite Black Jew, one of the innovators of stride piano, with people like Louis Armstrong, and so he's in the musical scene of Harlem, even though he is an Israelite. As you can see in the photograph, he wore a turban, and on his lapel, he wore a Star of David. And so when Marcus Garvey, I'll just bring up Garvey's photograph, and most of your listeners are probably already familiar with Marcus Garvey. He's considered the father of modern Black nationalism in the 1920s. The organization that he forms, called the Universal Negro Improvement Association, starts it in Jamaica, creates a branch of it in Harlem in 1917. They are the ones who create the red, black, and green flag, which is still used today, by Black nationalists, and is a symbol of kind of Black identity. And as he's building his organization there in Harlem, he looked to Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford, and the records show that they called him Rabbi. So Marcus Garvey referred to Arnold Ford as Rabbi Ford. And Rabbi Ford was trying to convince Garvey that we are Israelites, and that this book, this Torah, this Bible that they all have and use is about our people. And Garvey developed a catechism, that is a series of statements that people were supposed to memorize. They were supposed to learn these verses and scriptures. And Garvey was very proud of this, but refused to commit to any one faith, because he wanted his organization to be an umbrella for all different kind of groups. But his headquarters, and I do walking tours of Harlem, and I take students to where the headquarters for the UNIA once stood. It was called Liberty Hall. And in Liberty Hall, Rabbi Ford was allowed to hold classes and to teach Hebrew and to meet with groups as part of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. The post that Rabbi Ford was given was musical director of the UNIA. And so this was an important post, because they would actually hold parades. They would have marching bands. The meetings, which were often much like services, would begin with prayer and song. They would create their own songs, and the song that Rabbi Ford helped write was called Ethiopia. So if you're creating a nation in exile, right? Because as Garvey said, he says, when I look at the continent of Africa today, I don't see any independent countries. There are only 2 independent countries on the entire continent of Africa today, over 54 countries in Africa. At the time that Garvey was active in Harlem, there were only 2 independent countries, and that was Liberia and Ethiopia. Liberia had been created by the United States in the 19th century as a place to receive freed slaves. So it was Although it was nominally independent, it wasn't one of the ancient African states of Israel, of Africa. And Ethiopia was independent, but did not have a leader or emperor or king until Haile Selassie in the 1930s. And I'll come back to that when Rabbi Ford goes to Ethiopia to be there at the coronation of Haile Selassie. But in the 1920s, it's not. So what he was attempting to create was a nation in exile. And so a nation needs to have a flag, it needs to have an anthem, it needs to have a leader, and it needs to have organizations or structure. And he was creating all these things, basically a black state, with the ultimate goal of one day establishing that on the continent of Africa someplace. So therefore, the role that he gave to Rabbi Ford to be the musical director was the person who was supposed to orchestrate this. The anthem that he came up with was called Ethiopia, right? And he actually proposed that as an alternative to the word Negro, that they use the term Ethiopian, because Negro derived from slavery, and it just meant black in Spanish, and he wanted something that would connect us to the continent of Africa. Connecting us particularly to Ethiopia was closer to the Beta Israel, the surviving Israelites in the continent of Ethiopia there. And that became the national anthem. So today, everybody remembers the flag, the red, black, and green flag, but very few people remember the anthem that was sung. That would be like people knowing the flag of the United States, the stars and the bars, but not knowing the Star Spangled Banner, the song. So the person who wrote that song was an Israelite, and that was Rabbi Ford. Now, if any questions come in as I'm going, you can stop me, and I'll be happy to kind of answer them. If you have anything you want to ask me as I'm going, but that was important. Now, he held an important meeting in 1920 at the old Madison Square Garden. For those of you familiar with New York City, this was the largest sporting venue, perhaps in the United States at the time, certainly in New York. And they rented out the garden. This is where the Knicks play today. And they rented out Madison Square Garden so that black people could meet and discuss this new nation. This is the magnitude, the level of organization, which surpasses, almost anything that we have today in terms of consciousness. And of course, Rabbi Ford was there, and they created a subcommittee to, quote, investigate the future religion of the Negro. So people like Rabbi Ford was saying, we need a flag, we need an anthem. We also need to have a religion. So people, the things that were taken away from us, our language, our name, our religion, our nation, all of those things have to be restored. And Garvey only went so far as saying, well, this is our flag, this is our song, and as to the question of our religion, we'll create a committee to look at that. And Ford was on that committee. They never finished it, but he was there arguing that this is what we should this is what we should do, and this is who we should be. It starts to come apart in 1923 when Marcus Garvey is arrested by agents in the U.S. government who are trying to stop this movement from coming into fruition. And from my research, and I've looked at FBI documents, FBI wasn't formed yet, but within the Justice Department, I've gone to Washington, D.C. and the National Archives. Some of this material is also at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in Harlem. And as I went through both the trial transcripts and the agent's notes, a number of them were trying to get Rabbi Ford to testify in the trial against Marcus Garvey. And I found this very fascinating because what it shows is that Rabbi Ford and the cadre of Black Jews and Hebrew Israelites who were in this movement consider themselves Black nationalists, not Garveyites. And this is important for people who study Black history. In retrospect, we kind of see this movement as belonging to one man. Some people even call it the Garvey movement. Rabbi Ford saw Garvey as, the leader with a lot of potential and a lot of strengths, but also as a leader who had some limitations and some faults. And so they weren't Garveyites in terms of followers of Garvey. They were trying to lead Garvey, right? They were trying to direct him to be bolder and to be more progressive in terms of the religious question in defining who we are spiritually and historically, as well as politically, right? Garvey, unfortunately, never really got to that point. And you see that in terms of the factions within the organization. You have, the kind of Ford wing of that. In any case, by 1925, Garvey is sent to federal prison in Atlanta, Georgia, and then deported from the country, goes back to Jamaica and lived the rest of his life into the 1940s in London. And so that movement kind of comes to an end. But with the end of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, that's not the end of Israelite organization. So Rabbi Matthew still has this congregation in Harlem. This slide here refers to the Negro Catechism that I alluded to earlier. A catechism is a series of religious statements that students are supposed to memorize. And, so they would be questions like, who did Moses marry? And the answer is supposed to be Zipporah, a Black Ethiopian woman. So these are things, again, that he probably learned from Rabbi Ford and Israelites, and that did become a part of their catechism, but they would learn them almost as abstract biblical and historical facts, right? Just like a fact that you memorize and but then, what Ford was kept pushing him, now we need to do this. We need to practice it. When you see Black Zionism on my list here, when Garvey was asked, what are you modeling your Black nationalist campaign on, he was very much influenced by European Jews and the Zionist movement of the late 19th and early 20th century. So this is, you have to remember, before the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, it was just a dream. It was a wish. It was a concept. And a lot of people thought that, they're just talking, out of their heads. They're just imagining, one day the Jews from all over the world will come together, and have a country someplace. They weren't even always specific as to where it should be. Some people thought it should be in Uganda. Of course, there were always people who wanted it to be in the historical land of Israel. It was called Palestine at the time. And so Garvey looked at this and he saw a parallel. He says, well, if they can aspire to doing that, then Black people could aspire to doing the same thing. And so this emboldened him. This justified him as his dream as being as valid and as practical as those who wanted a Jewish state, the Irish who wanted a separate country, and other nationalist organizations. Of course, again, throughout all of this, Rabbi Ford would say that the dream of Zionists, of Jewish Zionists, is the same dream. And of course, Haile Selassie, who we're going to talk about in a moment, would say, I'm a direct descendant of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, right? So these are not like Black people trying to be like Jews, right? There were always people around Garvey who were saying, we are the same people, or they are us. Now, if Chief, is it all right if I digress for a moment and go back to the Torah?
Absolutely. You could do. You're in control.
Well, David said, I bless the Lord at all times.
Right.
And his praise is always on my lips. So
Hallelujah.
it's hard for me, except when I'm in the college classroom, to not quote scripture.
Uh-huh.
But since we are in our own environment tonight,
Right.
I could touch on how they view European Jews. I know that's one of those areas. I hear some feedback.
Yeah, because what happens is the gotta kind of like turn down my speaker and your speaker a little so that we can hear each other. We don't get that feedback because we're getting the feedback from the microphone. But
the passage I'm going to is the section of the Torah that we'll be reading next week. This is Genesis chapter 42. And I'm going to go to verse 7, Genesis 42, verse 7. There it says, Vayicher Yosef et Achaiv, vahem lo hikrehu. Right? So Joseph remembered et Achaiv. In Hebrew, Achi, Ach is brother. So it says, and Joseph knew or remembered his brothers, Echav, vehem lo hakir rihu, but they did not recognize him, right? And the reason I go here is because I've been saying our European brothers, right? And I'll call them my European brothers. They don't always recognize us as being their brothers, right? So some people might say, well, in spite if they don't recognize us, we shouldn't recognize them. And yet we're studying in the Torah today and next week where this was the same situation when we went down into Egypt first. When our brothers arrived there, Vayicher Yosef et Achai, he recognized his brothers, vehem lo hakirechu, but they did not recognize him, right? And this is the situation that we have today. Now, how can we recognize our brothers who are white or European? This comes out of a knowledge of understanding that people and a nation could start out as black at one time in one place, move to different places in the world around different populations, and if they start to intermarry with the people of that population, within a very few generations, they could become to look just like them. So therefore, anybody, I mean, I don't care, you take any black person and they could be the darkest shade of black that you could imagine. If they were to have children with a European, then their children would be biracial. Maybe a recognizably African, but biracial. Then if that child should then intermarry with the European, then your grandchildren might be more European than African. And then your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, they could be blonde and blue eyes, yet you would still be their grandfather or great-grandfather, right? So we see this happening today in America and over time, within just a few generations. It doesn't take very long for that to happen. And so if you have Israelites who perhaps at different periods, either after the destruction of the Second Temple in 722, or over the millennia, that is over the last 2,000 years, right? It's possible if you've been living in Europe for 2,000 years and intermarrying with Europeans for centuries, that you could come to look European. So this is how, like I said, if they are who they claim to be, and I don't know this for a fact, but if they are who they claim to be, then they have to acknowledge that they have African ancestors, right? And I've said this in audiences of European Jews where I tell them, I'm a black Jew, I'm an Israelite, I'm proud of that fact. I'm not saying that you white Jews are black. I'm saying you have black ancestors. And you should be comfortable with that. You should be proud of that. You should acknowledge that, because if you claim legacy to the people we're talking about, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Moses, and David, and Aaron, these are Black people. And so you're saying that they are your ancestors, which means you have Black origins. Now, doesn't mean you're Black today, right? Although I think when you look at the history of anti-Semitism in Europe, this is one reason that European Jews have always oppressed and despised European Jews.
Right.
Spanish, even up including the Holocaust, is because many of them said, although European Jews look like us, right, that is, that they appear to be white, that they are not in their history a European people, that they are still an African people. They have African ancestry. And
Rabbi,
I would argue is one of the root causes of anti-Semitism in Europe. The European Jew is not European at all, but African people of African descent who, as a result of intermixture, have come look white. Talking about the 20s, there were a number of Black people who could pass for white. One of those, James Weldon Johnson, talking about national anthems, he wrote a poem that became a song called "Lift Every Voice and Sing," which many African Americans regard as the Black national anthem today, right? He also wrote a novel called Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man, And in this book, it's a work of fiction, it's about a Black man who was so light-skinned that he could pass for white if he wanted to. And at a certain point in the book, after a lynching where he sees a man killed and then his body burned, he says, I can no longer be Black anymore. And so he lives the rest of his life as a white man. And that's the point where the book becomes like a frightening horror story, because his wife doesn't know that he's Black. His children don't know that their father's Black, and the message in the book is like, well, if this were true, there could be a lot of white people who are actually Black people, and the white people they're married to don't know that they're actually Black. Legally in America, there was what was called the one-drop rule, which meant that if somebody could prove that you had even one drop of African blood, then you were legally Black, right? I'm teaching a course now this semester on the American Civil War. By the way, I don't know if you mentioned in my biography, I'm an associate professor of history at Northampton Community College, and I teach a course on the American Civil War, and we're reading a book by Eric Foner, who is the DeWitt Clinton and Alexander Hamilton Professor of History at Columbia University, where I studied, and he's still there. His book called Fiery Trial about Abraham Lincoln. He talks about Lincoln as a young lawyer, and one of the cases that he took before he became president was of a white man who was accused of being a Black man. And he hired Abraham Lincoln as a lawyer to defend him in court to prove that he wasn't Black. So, I say that to say this is very serious, right? That there are actual cases of people being accused of being Black. Sometimes they would be. Sometimes they would be a case of mistaken identity. In this case, Lincoln said that the man is not actually Black, but Portuguese. And that's how he got him off. He was being accused by his own brother-in-law, who claimed that his sister married a Black man. So obviously he has a Mediterranean complexion. And Lincoln said, well, this is because he's from Portugal, around the Mediterranean, not from Africa. So people were saying, he's got some Blackness in him somewhere.
Right.
And if it came from anywhere in Africa, that would make him Black, which would make his marriage illegal, which would mean as a Black person in the 19th century, he had no rights at all in society. Not a right to any right to the Constitution, even perhaps even right to be free. So the stakes are very high to prove his white. So therefore, perhaps this is a long way around and saying that we should not assume today that European Jews do not have African ancestry is very uh, uh, probable,
probable,
practical, and
practical, and
possible
possible
that
that
people could
people could
start
start
out,
out,
black
black
at one
at one
time,
time,
and in a
and in
few
a few
hundred
hundred
years
years
of
of,
of
of
mixing,
mixing
look very
look very
different.
different.
So,
So,
so
so
when
when
Garvey
Garvey
deported from the
deported from
United
the United
States,
States,
Rabbi
Rabbi
Ford
Ford
stayed
stayed
here
here
and
and
started his
started his
own
own
congregation.
congregation.
The next slide I have on your screen is a picture of Rabbi Ford on your left, still with his bass. So as I said, he was always a musician. And you see him there with his bass, and members of his congregation, his choir, which included Eudora Paris, who is the mother of Rabbi Paris. For those of you who know the late great Rabbi Halu Paris. Above the congregation, you see the glass window there, and in Hebrew it says congregation, which is not actually a Hebrew word. It's using Hebrew letters to write phonetically. Congregation, Bet B'nai Avraham. And then that's the Hebrew house of the children of Abraham, is what it means there. And so, they were representing right there in Harlem at the time that we are the house of the children of Abraham. And he, as I said, taught Hebrew. They observed all the laws, commandments of being an Israelite. On the left, you see the hymnal, the Universal Ethiopian Hymnal. And again, when he said Ethiopian, this was supposed to be an alternative. He did not like the word Negro. And so they would use the term Ethiopian, not just to refer to the country. If they wanted to refer to someone from the country, they would say Abyssinian. So Ethiopian was supposed to be an alternative to Black or Negro or African American or Afro-American. Had it caught on, then we would be calling ourselves Ethiopian today. It is a Greek word meaning black or burnt faces, but he thought it at least connected us with a country and a place in a way that the word Negro doesn't. And where Negro comes out of slavery, this is an older word that connects us to a grand past and legacy. And he wasn't the only Black rabbi in Harlem at the time. The next slide you have up is a photograph. Both of these were taken by the African-American photographer James Vandersea. He chronicled Harlem during the period. Much of his work, photographs, are at the Schomburg Center for Research of Black Culture, and you'll see them in many books. This particular photograph has been made into postcards, and we are taking a trip to the African American National Museum in Washington, and perhaps Chief, you can give us the date of when those buses are leaving, if the tickets is still available. But some of his work is there. But here, the person you see in the center is not Rabbi Matthews. I've actually corrected historians and publishers who see a picture like this and they think any Black rabbi in Harlem, oh, that must be Rabbi Matthews, assuming he was the only person who knew this. And so what we see is there were a group actually of even in the 1920s of Black rabbis in synagogues. This particular one, as the sign says, was the Moorish Zionist Temple of the Moorish Jews. And that was located on 127th Street, West 137th Street. And that was Rabbi Mordecai Herman there in the center. I have conducted interviews with people who knew him personally. The late Rabbi Lee, who just passed away last year, Sholomo Levy, and he was like at the age of 93 and 97. And he remembers Rabbi Mordecai Herman from when he was a boy living in Brooklyn. And you see him there with members of his congregation. The difference you can see is he was the only one wearing tzitzit, right? That is the talit. So they had to, learn these things in order to do them, right? So the Torah says, that you must do the practice of Torah, not just the knowledge. So you got to be it, not just think it or know it or even teach it, but you have to do it. And so once you know that we are the biblical people, how do we restore that today? How do we live that reality today? And so they would learn things wherever they could, from whoever was willing to teach them certain things. They were discriminating in the sense that, when I say discriminating, meaning selecting what is good from what is not good, what is true from what is not true, what is acceptable from what's unacceptable. So they never accepted everything that European Jews taught them unequivocally or without question, but rather things that made sense, that were applicable, they would do, particularly if it didn't contradict anything that was in the Torah. Things that they found to be foreign or not ancient or biblical, they would recognize those as being traditions or customs. And every group, even every group within the nation of Israel, is entitled to their own customs. They're entitled to their own traditions, but we only have one law, and making a distinction between custom and law. So like Hanukkah, as I said, that begins tomorrow night, that is a custom, it is a tradition, it is a holiday, it is not a holy day. So we are not commanded to observe it. It is an historical moment that we should remember, along with other historical moments, but it is not a commandment by God that we observe the Hanukkah or the Purim. But we must observe the Hag HaMatzot, the Shavuot. These are holy days that we must observe. But as a people, we can have holidays and things that we commemorate. For instance, we in our community remember the birth of Rabbi W. Matthew, right, as a holiday, not a holy day, but a holiday in terms of remembering who our leaders were, and that's what holidays help you do. Other people who were searching, like Rabbi Ford and Rabbi Matthews, and we're almost at our time. I said I'm going to stop. Were people like Noble Drew Ali, who was a contemporary of Rabbi Ford and Rabbi Matthews. His search for identity led him in a different direction. But you notice his group was called the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. This would later become the Nation of Islam in Chicago. Rabbi Mordecai Herman was called the Moorish Zionist Temple. So notice they both have Moor in the titles of their organization. Moors refer to a group of people from North Africa who ruled Spain up until 1492, right? So they were both kind of looking at the kind of same history and also looking at culture. You see his dress, he had a kind of Eastern fez, and members of his congregation, they had kind of garb, developed this kind of Eastern somewhat garb that they developed. And so their contemporaries, the direction that Rabbi Matthews and Rabbi Ford took was more closely related or based on Torah and Scripture, right? So although there's history of the Moors ruling North Africa and Spain, what they drew on was really the history of slavery, where most of the slaves came from West Africa, and the prophecies, the scriptural prophecies, and I'll just put some of them on the screen there for your listeners to write down and read on their own. But of course, Deuteronomy chapter 28 really lays it out there. Jeremiah 29, Ezekiel, Zephaniah, Isaiah. Isaiah 11 speaks of God saying, I will bring you back from the four corners of the earth and the islands of the sea. And I think maybe a good place to end tonight will be with a meeting that the Israelite community had in Brooklyn this month, on December 3rd, in fact, we had a representative from the island of Madagascar, which is the large island off the southern coast of Africa, who came to meet with the Israelite community at Beth Shalom, in which she said that Isaiah 11 was a fulfillment of prophecy for them, and they're just waking up to their knowledge of them being Israelites, but that this is fulfillment of scripture, that our people will be scattered all over the world. And so this is why I'm never surprised by any group of people anywhere in Africa or any place in the world. People came like from China and said we were scattered there, right? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they look Chinese. If they've been living there for 2,000 years and intermarrying with the people of Asia, they're going to look Asian. If people come from different parts of South America, different parts of Europe, if you've been there and you've lost your identity, as Deuteronomy 28 says that you would, and that you will worship alien gods, then of course you're going to be Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and Hindus and what have you. And you're going to look like the people that you've been with, and you're going to have their customs and their traditions and their languages. But God will bring us all back. And so we are that remnant of people, the majority perhaps, who fled into Africa, which is where we were from to begin with. And we're starting to wake up as to who we are. We are starting to return. And as we do, we are, seeking the knowledge first from the Torah, from other sources. The Talmud itself says, "Mi chacham," who is wise? And the answer is, he who can learn from anyone. So we don't reject any valuable knowledge, any traditions that are helpful, that are beneficial, that help us to grow and nourish. We are also creators of culture and tradition. So Rabbi Matthews, for instance, he observed that European Jews did not bring fruit at Sukkot. And he read the scriptures as you're supposed to bring this fruit. He observed that they did not bring the meal offerings for Shavuot, which is the harvest of wheat, and this is of the fine grains and flours. And so he created the custom of Israelites bringing cake or bread during Shavuot, bringing baskets of fruit during Shavuot. This is not imitative of European Jews who didn't do these things. They said, well, since the destruction of the temple, we don't do that. Right? Matthew says, I don't see why we can't. Certain things we can't do because we don't have the means. We don't have a temple. We don't have a functioning priesthood in that sense. We're not in our land. And so some things we can't do, but those things that we can do, we should do. And so he would create culture, create traditions, and he would also borrow some cultures and traditions that he thought would be beneficial and that help create a commonality among all people. So, the Torah schedule that we're talking about now allows us, whoever we are, wherever we're from, to be studying the Torah at the same place at the same time. That avoids a kind of random study, right? Everybody's doing their own thing separately. We're all on the same page. It means that you could visit any house of study on Shabbat, and you could walk in there, and everybody will be literally on the same page. And that means you could learn from them as they teach and relate it. But we're entitled to our own culture and traditions in terms of the way we dress. That was a division among our people, and we'll talk about that at another interview about what happened in the 1960s, where dress became something that divided Israelites, whether you wore a turban or whether you wore a tie. Whereas the period I talked about tonight in the 1920s, you have Rabbi Matthews and Rabbi Ford together, one wearing a turban, the other one wearing a tie, and that wasn't a source of division in the 1920s, but it divided us, in the 1960s and 70s. Fortunately, we are at a point in our maturity where that no longer, divides us. The important thing is that you have tzitzit. That is what the Torah requires that you wear. Anything else, is culture and tradition. You're entitled to that. But when I see you and I see you have tzitzit and you see I have tzitzit, that's how you know I'm your brother. And that's how I know that you're my brother, because that's the sign, that blue thread. Everything else, you know, that could change with the styles and the fashions and whatever your creativity, whatever your preference is. But these are our God-given symbols. So, Chief, I know I went a little bit over my time, but I do want to take any questions before we end tonight.
Okay, can you hear me, Rabbi? Rabbi, can you hear me? Rabbi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, excellent. Thank you once again for the presentation, and many people are appreciative. As you know, some people are because on one end of the spectrum, and I know you know this because we've known each other for a while, and you know the different rifts between the different communities. And I think one of the main issues that people were voicing is about calling the European our brothers. And I think that comes a lot from the treatment a lot of times of the European towards us. So a lot of people were kind of, they were feeling a way about calling the European our brothers. Would you like to touch on it? And I mean, I know you went into it extensively, but they just, a lot of people have problems with calling them our brothers, and the arguments are that the children of Israel were a people of color. Right. And when you read Deuteronomy 28, and when it speaks about us being scattered to the four corners of the earth, it wasn't with us being a European people. We were a people of African descent, and that we were melanated people. So, and the European not accepting us and sometimes being nasty towards us, is you could understand how people would not accept them as being the children of Israel, because we do understand and know that the children of Israel were a melanated people. I mean, we intermarried with Canaanites. We ourselves, we were black. We were people of melanin. So that's one of the issues, or the main issue, And I mean, I understand the arguments, and I understand also your point. I've gone over that with this audience about, if you marry in that same explanation you gave, we
can stick with Torah. Because if you are studying the Torah as we are, right? Last week in the Torah, it talked about the meeting of Jacob and Esau, two brothers. Rarely does the Torah mention physical descriptions of people, and especially descriptions of their complexion. But in this case, it did. And it said that Esau was red and hairy. Now, the word Esau comes from the Hebrew word se'ar, which means hair. Not so he said he was red and hairy, but his name Esau means the hairy one, right? Not the red one. He would get the name, his descendants would be called Edomites, and Edom means red as a color, but they're not called the red people because of their red skin. They're called the red people because Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of red pottage. So the red refers to the beans.
Right. I agree with that.
Right. Not to the, but he was red.
Right.
But so they were aware, and these are not only brothers, they're twins. They have the same father and mother. They came out of the womb at the same time. Normally, twins are identical or bear a strong resemblance, but sometimes the Torah teaches us that people could come out looking very different. And even if your brother has red skin, and doesn't describe Jacob, so Jacob was normal. I would say he was a melanated person. He was a black person, right? Esau was red and hairy. The fact that he was hairy would seem to be more unusual or odd in terms of they called them Esav, the hairy one, not the red one. But beside that, it says that Isaac loved Esau. So the fact it does point out the anomaly of his complexion, but that didn't stop him from loving him. And at the end, despite even the differences between Jacob and Esau, at the end they were brothers. They buried their father together, and they buried their strife and conflict. So therefore, we are learning from Torah, not from me. You can disagree with me, but if you claim to be an Israelite and you claim to be studying this Torah, the Torah is teaching us, right, that these differences in complexions will appear for different reasons or for inexplicable reasons. But whatever they are, we should not allow that to differentiate us from acknowledging who our brothers are. The second example I gave was from next week's Torah Sidra, if you go ahead, right, where it says that Jacob's brothers did not recognize him, but he recognized them. So how could you look at your brother and not know who he is? Now, granted, he had changed his name to an Egyptian name, and he was wearing Egyptian clothing, right? But his brothers looked him right in the face, and they didn't know who he was, right? Perhaps they were, thrown off because he's the governor of Egypt, and they thought he was dead. Perhaps they were thrown off because of the clothing that he was wearing and the language that he's speaking and the people he's surrounded with. And if all those accoutrements, right, distract you so that you can't see that that is your brother, then that's their problem. It says Joseph knew his brothers, even though his brothers did not know him. So I would, agree with all those Israelites who say European Jews don't recognize us, they don't respect us, they don't welcome us. In all the cases where that's true, that's their problem. They don't recognize us, just like Joseph's brothers didn't recognize him. But in this scenario, we are Joseph, right? We are the righteous ones. We are the ones who
Shalom, Rabbi.
Yes.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Yo, we got a caller. I'm not sure if you could hear him.
Okay.
Shalom.
Okay.
Shalom. Chief Kohat. Oh. All right, he hung up. I thought we had a caller.
Maybe you can relay the question for him.
Okay. When he calls back, then I'll have him speak on the live on air. I think that the issue is also that it's like you made the point with Joseph and his brothers when they came down to Egypt after he was sold into bondage.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what most people would say that ancient Egyptians were black people, Hamitic people,
right?
From Misraim. So you're still dealing with a melanated people. I'm just giving you the arguments. I'm not arguing with you because I do have an understanding of what you're saying, and for if we're going strictly by Torah and the way we learned it, and I've explained this before, I've told people that if we go strictly by Torah and we could, and I could see it in my family on my father's side of the family. Mm-hmm. If you go down to certain lines down in my father's side of the family, you will begin to see people that look almost European with straight hair, but they come from an Israelite, from what we would determine to be an Israelite. So I know that skin color has nothing to do with it, but I think that because of slavery and the way that some of our teachers taught us, because of what we were going through in America with the oppression through the civil rights movement and things of that nature, that a lot of us, it was ingrained in a lot of us that this is that these people were not our people, they were not for us, and they were not our brothers. Hold on for a second, Rabbi. Shalom.
Yeah, shalom.
Shalom. Yeah. Rabbi Sholomo, can you hear the caller?
I can.
All right. Go ahead, Chief Kohath.
I don't hear him now, but you can translate for me.
Can you hear him? Can you hear him? All right. Can you hear him now? Go ahead, Chief.
Can you hear me, Rabbi Sholomo?
Now I do.
All right. Go ahead. Repeat the question. Repeat it from the beginning.
I listened to how you put in in context how as brothers can come in different looks, and they're still brothers. But when I study about the people that the European Jews and where they come from, the Khazars, number one. You said that Esau and Yaakov, one was different to the other. Yes, we know that one was hairy and red. The other one is regular complexion, like our melanated people. But then Esau married to pure black woman. So his children never became hairy after. Because he married nothing but he married strictly the Canaanite woman. So that light skin, I know that light skin disappeared somewhere on the line. Because he didn't marry into black women. The only woman that Arab woman, that was when his father talked about, when you hear his father talking about the woman that he married, the Canaanite, he decided to go and marry
Ishmaelite. Ishmaelite.
Ishmael, one of Ishmael, a Ishmael, I think that her name is.
Right.
But what I'm saying, what I'm hearing, I understand that I call him my brother because they pray to the same God. But we are, we not the same people. We not the same people. I don't see them as us. I don't see them as, they come from a region that we don't come from. Maybe like when the scientific showing us that some of us went to that cold area and mixed up with Neanderthal and all that stuff up there, and they had changed to be what they look like. But in reality, the Israelites look like me and you. They don't come no other color but me and you. I understand that if you married a European woman, that the child will come out half white, half black, kind of light skin, some dark skin, because Barack Obama came out dark skin. So, but some of them will come out a little light, and if that child married a European woman, the child will come out lighter, and if he continue to marry a European, the child will become white. I understand that argument very much, because that can happen. But for them, for you to say that they are our brother, I only have that in context because they pray to the same God. But flesh and blood, I don't have that with them like that. I don't have them like that, my brother like that. Because they're not the melanated people. They're not the people that went into Egypt. They're not the people, and when we look at where they come from, we know that's not the people that went into Egypt. They're Khazars. And they're the people that the U.S. are fighting today, the Russian people.
Let me ask the Kohen this.
Hold on.
I understand that you put it to them, they are brothers, because I wouldn't have nothing against it, because
Chief. Chief. Chief, the rabbi want to ask you a question. Go ahead, Rabbi.
Okay. How do you interpret the Torah prophecy that God said, "I will scatter you to the four corners of the earth"? So you're familiar with that, I assume. So that means you scatter us to Europe, to Asia, to Latin America.
All right, hold on, Rabbi. He's trying to answer you now.
Oh, okay.
All right, go ahead, Chief.
I would agree with you that the people who went into Egypt.
Hold on, Chief. Chief, hold on. He's responding to you. Go ahead, Rabbi.
We agree that the people who went into Egypt were black people. Right? So the problem though is that all the people in that area were black. So the Egyptians were black, the Canaanites were black, the Israelites were black. And so therefore the covenant, which is what makes us Israelites, is not made with all black people. It's made with descendants of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. So when we talk about racial terms, we are speaking about contemporary modes of people created by you in the last 500 years. So this is we have to deal with race because it's a reality that affects our lives today. But when we impose our racial thinking back on our ancestors, right, and assume that they would think the way we think when they did not live in a European society, right? So the racial thinking that's rough. Right, I got to deal with it. I'm not one who tries to deny race, but I understand it as something that divides us. Lastly, we don't want to make the mistake of interpreting in a narrow way. So one of the reasons European Jews don't recognize us or accept us is they don't believe in the prophecy of the dispersal either. That Israelite people will be dispersed to all the four corners of the earth. And so therefore they think the only place that Israelites migrated to were Europe. On the flip side of the coin, I meet Israelites who think the only place Israelites were dispersed to were Africa, right? Whereas I take Torah literally in the sense that when God said, "I will scatter you over the four corners of the earth and the islands of the sea," that means he will scatter us all over the world. And if that is true, if the word of God is true and we were scattered to all those places and we've been in those places for thousands of years, then of course we're going to look like all the people with whom we've been marrying. So that's why I said earlier, those who have been scattered to Asia are going to look Asian. And if you reject them today because they're not black enough, right? Or those who have been scattered to Latin America, those who have been scattered to Europe, then that's okay. Because again, it says, God says, "I will choose and I will bring back." So it does. Other people don't have to accept us, and we don't have to accept each other. But God said, "I will choose and I will bring you back." But I think in our knowledge to say, I'm not going to be fooled just because of how you dress or because of your skin or your language today, if you say that God has awakened the spirit in me, that my ancestors were Israelites, and I'm returning, Shuvah, I accept.
Yeah, so go ahead, Chief Kohath.
What I'm saying, and then Chief Sholomo, Rabbi Sholomo said that the reason why Jacob didn't resemble, he made the parallel between the Jewish man not recognizing us and we recognizing them. That I have a little problem with that, because we didn't recognize Joseph because he looked like an Egyptian. An Egyptian is bald-headed, clean shaved, and look completely different. We didn't recognize him. We come bearded, long locks, so he don't look like us. Egyptians are very clean. Because matter of fact, we compete with Egyptians because it was an abomination. Because the way we look, fully hair and long braid, look like a rasta. But they don't recognize him because 17 years he's over there now, and he don't look like us. Because that's why they didn't recognize us. That's the way I put it. That we didn't recognize Joseph because he looked different. He looked completely different. Not that because, not the way Rabbi Sholomo put it, that the Jewish man don't recognize us, but we recognize him. We didn't recognize Joseph because Egyptians are clean shaven and bald-headed, and we come with beard and locks. That's my assumption of how it was. That's how I look at it. But it wasn't that it wasn't a color thing. It's really recognizing because he was bald and clean shaven, and we come with beard and locks.
I think we're going in circles. Because I agree. But I said just because that's who we were then.
Hold on, Chief, hold on.
I think we go in circles. So I said just because that's what we looked like then does not mean that's how we all look today. So I said you could start with someone who's black as coal, and they're great, blue eyes.
Listen, I understand what you're putting together here, but it's something that just like you study, we all study, and we looking to see where we can join forces with people. We try to mend fences with other people that don't want to mend fences with us. So I understand you call him our brother because that's the way the teaching that you have. I call him a brother too because they do the same teaching. They believe in the same God that I believe in, and I'm not going to reject them as a people. I will never do that. But seed and blood, I don't think they seed and blood with me. That's all I'm saying. They're not seed and blood with me. Whether one of my ancestors went into a white woman and they had a child, and the child went into another European and they had a child, I don't find them like that because their DNA and Neanderthal in it. My DNA is pure black. My DNA is 100% human being. They have a different DNA than me. They have Neanderthal DNA in them. You know about that, Rabbi Sholomo?
Rabbi, are you there?
I am. I think I think we just have to agree to disagree there. As I said, the problem of logic is that just because you can prove that the Israelites was black does not mean that they are not white Israelites. So the example I gave, you have a man who's black, and his grandchildren have blonde eyes and blue hair, blonde hair and blue eyes, right? That can happen in a few generations, and those blonde haired people could point back and say, that man is my grandfather. And you can't deny it, but you can explain how that happened based on the choices of marriage that happened 3 generations between them. And that explains why person has blonde hair, why they have blue eyes, and why their great grandfather is a black man with black skin, you know, and so therefore we want to be careful that we don't make the same mistakes that Europeans make about us. They can't accept us because of the color of our skin. I say that's their problem. We are not the racists. We are proud of our history, and we think that's important that everybody accept it. So as I said earlier, I want European Jews to recognize that their ancestors, if they claim to be who they are, and I accept them for that, then acknowledge that you come from a black people. And that is how we get past race in America, because, and I'm going to end on this point, that racism and white supremacy has several components. It is been reinforced by law, and luckily the laws over the last 50 years have changed. It's also supported by economics, and that hasn't changed very much. And it's supported by a notion of white cultural superiority, right? And what do they base their cultural superiority on? The belief that their faith systems, Christianity and Judaism, are European. And so that's why, for me, if you want to get past race, first we got to acknowledge the blackness of the major religions of the world, Judaism and Christianity. I'm not saying people can't practice them. I'm not saying they can't be a part of it, or they might not historically be a part of it. But even if you're not an Israelite, if you acknowledge that that's where it came from, that's its source, then you remove the basis for white cultural supremacy. Right? That's why I still do. Some people tell me, Rabbi, why don't you stop talking about race? Why don't we just be human beings? Why don't we just be people? And I understand that, right? But I feel I got to deal with race so that we could ultimately get to a point where we could just, be human beings, because Israel was chosen to be a light to the world. So I'm supposed to be a light to them. I'm supposed to be teaching them what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a righteous person. The Torah helps us to do that. And so whether you're Israelite or not, you're still my brother, because the Torah teaches me that all human beings are the sons of Adam. And if we all have the same father, then that by definition makes us brothers. Right? So that's what I try to live and teach, and that's where Israel is supposed to be a light to the world for. And so, I'll just leave it there. And Chief, I hope you invite me back soon. Continue to take questions and announce, we'll have another forum. Those of you in the New York area will have a chance to dialogue.
Chief Kohath, I'm going to talk to you, all right?
Next month in January at Beth Shalom for the graduation of Chief Binyamin.
Mm-hmm.
And we have other events that I'll be announcing on our website, blackjews.org. So
all right.
And I'll say Laila Tov, Shabbat Shalom, and Chag Sameach.
Toda, Rabbi, and we appreciate tonight coming on and just enlightening the people. We could do this as soon as you want to do it again. You give me the word if you want to do it as soon as next week. If you want to do it 2 weeks from now, however you want to do it, because I know I see all the slides on the side and you didn't go through all of them. So,
yes, next time maybe we'll do it the 16s, contemporary. Always got to do whatever we do. Always got to bring in Torah, and hopefully I'm going to improve my technology so I can have the camera and system so that next time we do this, we could have it set up visually like we want. But I thank you for inviting me, and pray that God will continue to bless you in this endeavor, because it is one way to reach our people.
Toda Rabbi, and may the Most High bless you. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Hallelujah. All right. So I thank the Most High God for Rabbi Sholomo Ben Levy, and I just want to tell the people this, right? And I get it. We all come from different schools of understanding. You have to agree that tonight we learned a lot. Those of you that didn't know some of this history, the rabbi is well versed in the history of Israelites here in America, and that was the main reason why he came here. Sometimes when you get people from, he considers himself an Israelite, and I wanted to ask him another question, but he already had stayed on for longer than what he originally was going to stay on. And I know that, the conversation sometimes goes that way. And I'd like to thank Chief Kohath for calling in and putting it forth. But we had this discussion some months ago, and I made the same point. I made the same point about marrying. If an Israelite marries a Caucasian woman and you are what your father is, and that child keeps marrying into that son keeps marrying into Caucasians, that eventually that's going to happen. So when the rabbi brought it up in speaking about the European Jews, we got in an uproar. No one got in an uproar when I said it a few months ago. But that's okay. I know my people. It's okay. Now, with the European thing is a toss-up, there's been some studies out there and, that's been made, but I didn't bring the rabbi to, and this is the thing that we have to understand and that I understand. When you invite someone to your house, you can have an open discussion about things, but we don't badger people that we invite to our homes. Now, do we agree? Now, who agrees that they learned something tonight? Can anybody, even if you didn't agree with everything, all the the terms that he might have used, and you have to understand that the rabbi is coming from that point of view. He never veered off from that point of view. He was raised up as that. So my point to you, if anybody learned something tonight, put me a 5 in the room. Write the number 5 in the room. And I got 61 people viewing this show right now. And I know all of y'all are not sleeping. So if you learned something tonight, just press the number 5 for me in the room. And I want to see everybody get up from your bed or whatever. If you're watching on a TV or whatever, just press the number 5 if you learned something tonight on both streams, on Facebook Live and over here on the thing, on the YouTube channel. Please give me a number 5. This stream should be jumping. Now, this is what's important, that we all learned something tonight. Now the rabbi is going to come back. I'm going to arrange some more. We can't go crazy over terminology. Like, we're going crazy because what we have to realize is we've been programmed a certain way. I've been part of that program also, but we can't go crazy over terminology like we're guarding something that's really not there. He like he said, and those are things that we learn. Once I see my brother with ZTs on, I know that that's my brother. I got Chief Kohath calling back. Chief Kohath is calling back. Shalom, Chief.
I learned a lot from you tonight.
Right.
I explained. I said I learned a whole lot.
Absolutely. No, I know. Look, Chief, I understood your point, and I know where you were bringing it from. But I'm not even aiming this at you. I'm aiming it at some people that get caught up with a terminology like kosher, or you get caught up with a terminology like he's using the word Jews or he's using the word Jewish. And what I'm trying to explain is that so what I'm trying to say is that, hey, Ima, you could call back and you could voice your opinion. You were trying to call while Chief Kohath was on, but I couldn't cut Chief Kohath conversation off to bring you in. All right, so you could call me back when Chief Kohath gets off, or you could call me back while he's on, and I'll merge the conversation while he's on. You call me back right now, Ima.
Who wants to speak to you?
Ima Alvared Yisrael. You could call me back right now, and you could voice your opinion.
Let me come out to your speaker.
All right.
Okay.
Come on, Ima. Call me back so you could voice your opinion, because I know you have an opinion on this. So my point is, Not everything you said was accurate. Okay, so you could call back and you could voice that opinion. My point is that if I invited the man, right, to give a presentation, we have to understand that he came to give a presentation, and everything you hear in the presentation you might not agree with. All right, here go Ema. She gonna give me an earful. Here we go. Shalom. Go ahead, Ema. How you doing?
Shalom. All is well. I'm doing great. Praise the Most High.
All right. I just want to tell you off the bat, when you were calling, I had Chief Kohav having a discussion with the rabbi, so I could not.
Yeah, I understood all that.
Oh, okay.
I understood that.
All right.
That wasn't an issue with me.
Okay.
I wanted to speak to the rabbi. I understood what the chief was saying, and he was absolutely right. He may not articulated himself the way he wanted to, but what he said was right. We can't just let, as far as I'm concerned, people come in and just say whatever they want. It doesn't have anything to do with education. Even though education is important, that doesn't make a person 100% correct because they're educated. Now, he's a good man, and I'm sure he's trying to do the best he can with the information that he has, just like the rest of us are. But we're going to have to make some hard choices around here as far as what kind of life we're going to lead and how we're going to lead it. It's good to get information from other people's perspective and their walks of life. That's always a good thing. And there's plenty to be learned. There's a lot of stuff to glean from the educational institutions, but you have to realize that's all form of education, and that stuff is very structured. And some of the information that was given out was incorrect. It was skewed. I would say it was skewed a little bit.
So can you give me some examples? Can you give me some examples of what?
I'm saying it now.
Okay.
Like he was giving information concerning how we moved from black nationalism and how we had the Moorish Hebrew Temple of America, and then it moved into Noble Drew Ali, and then we moved from there and became the Black Islam. That did not happen that way. That's not what happened. And I know that's not what happened because my people helped founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913 and then moved to Chicago in 1928. What happened was they all came out of Marcus Garvey. And out of that understanding, and from that understanding, they started studying the Quran. And then they all decided to, under Farad Muhammad, decided to branch off and form their own communities independently. They were never a group. They were independent groups, which is fine. No problem there. We are Moors. A lot of us came out of Northwest Africa. We understand that. And so we took on the European name of Moorish as we went into America and it came under this system. And that's all well and fine. But the Khazarian people do not fit prophecy. And that's all we got to say on them. We can go and we can debate on whether they were white or black or red or anything else. It doesn't matter. They don't fit prophecy. They are people who have their own army. They are people who have their own wealth. They are a nation who govern themselves. They are a nation with power. They are the nation who rule over other nations of people with vigor. Israel never had that until they come back into the land as Israelites. We are not the same people. Now, we can play that if you want to, but the truth is we're not the same people. None of the prophecies fit them. They came out of Northern Europe under Germanic society. The only thing that makes them connected to us is the fact that they are from Yafet's bloodline through Noah. Other than that, we don't have a connection with them. The connection now, are there going to be Europeans coming out of Europe or other places that may have our bloodline? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there are. But there are going to be people in the same situation that we're in. Right now, if you go into India, you're going to Southern Asia, you're going to see plenty of Israelite, Hebrew-looking people, dark, melanated people living among them. They came off of those slave ships, and it's well documented. The city is one, and I know everybody knows the city. The city is one group of people. It's about maybe 5,000 of them now in India that are treated the same way we are here. If you go into Panama, if you go into Costa Rica, you go into all of these countries, you're going to see us in the same situation as the prophecy. That's how you know who the people are. That's how you know where they come from.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Sure.
I just want to say now to the people on Facebook Live, can you hear me? Anybody on and there's someone over here disagreeing with you, Ima. They say more is not a European word, and this is a Moor brother who's listening.
Okay. If you don't consider it to be a European word, that's fine.
No,
I know what it means.
No, Ima, no. I'm just telling you, Ima. Listen. Ima, just listen to what I'm saying. I'm not arguing with you. There's someone said.
No, you said someone else.
Right. Concept. She is completely. They saying that you're incorrect about that. But the question I had about you was this. You spoke about Israelites who consider Israelites from India, right? And I got my brother Zion Lex who just joined it from India. People from India that consider themselves Israelites, right?
No, they don't consider. They don't know that they're Israelites, but they are.
No. There's a group of people. Hold on, Ima. Let me correct you. There's a group of people in India that say that they're from the tribe of Benjamin. I think there's a group of people from India that were looking for asylum in Israel because they said that they've been keeping this tradition for years. And these people in India, they look just, if you look at them, and if they didn't say that they were Israel, that they were the house of Israel, they look just like what we would call an Indian, an East Indian. It wouldn't be no difference between them and the East Indian, but they say they could trace their lineage all the way back to Benjamin. You know that they migrated into that part. Ima, listen to what I'm saying. Ima, listen to what I'm saying. They say that they migrated there. So that's what I'm trying to say now. Certainly, a lot of Indians don't like us, and they treat us the same. They don't think they're black, and they look down on us. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that I think I'm brothers with some European. There's a lot of stuff that got to be worked out in between there. But what I am trying to say is trying to put it in perspective to what he was trying to say. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly what he was saying.
Right.
All I'm saying is this. The prophecies is what prove who the Israelites are. It doesn't have anything to do with color per se, but it does have something to do with the prophecy.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I agree.
So if you're saying that there's some people in India who's saying that they are from a specific race of people, then that may be true. Because we had a lot of the 10 tribes who went into all these different countries before the last 3.
So, all right.
On Africa.
So, Ima, so let me ask you this. So, like you did.
Before you ask me another question, let me finish my thought. Okay?
Go ahead.
All right. So, here's my thought here. We have a group of people in South Africa. They call themselves a member, and everybody knows the story.
Absolutely.
And the story goes that they have been saying that they are Israelites.
The DNA.
Many years.
Right.
And they had all of these scholars and historians and researchers to go in from the European perspective to prove that they weren't, pretty much, probably. But anyway, they went in to prove it. And the people gave the story that they came from Sinai, or they came from this area in the Mesopotamia or what have you, and then they came into the land. Okay.
Right.
So at the end of all of this research, we had a group of European Khazarian Jewish rabbis that came down and said, "Oh yeah, these people are from the bloodline
of Aaron,
of Levi."
Of Aaron, that's right.
Why they're from the bloodline of Levi, the priesthood, is because they have the same blood that we do. Okay? Now, these people are from the Khazarian Ashkenazi community, and they have been rabbinical order since the 700s, okay?
Right.
And this is what they've been doing. Now, my question is this. How do you extract the DNA of the Levites to prove that you, who is Ashkenazi from the bloodline of Yosef, is the same bloodline that that these other people, the Limber, are? Not saying that the Limber is not the people, because I could believe that, but I'm just saying, you have to realize that the European Jews have been doing the same thing that the Christian Catholic society has been doing all these many years.
Right.
They have been converting people.
Right.
They have been going into these countries, and they have been sitting down, and they have been converting these people so that they can make money and use these nations and do these different things that they needed to do. And I'm telling you right now, the prophecy says that we're going to lose 2/3 of our people, and only a remnant is going to come out. So the thing is, when it's all said and done, is are we going to be following Talmud, and we're going to keep going with these different religious orders, regardless of how they became religious? We all know that they came from the Torah. Or are we going to keep the Torah as written? Because we got a lot of work to do.
All right, Ima, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did you learn anything tonight?
I put a 3 up there, didn't I?
Don't get mad with me. You gonna take the belt out and beat me? Don't beat me. I just asked.
I don't have time to play any games.
I'm
I've
just.
been through this a long time. I've been watching this go back and forth. We keep doing this stuff. Every year we keep doing the same thing.
But Ima, did he give historical perspective on anything? Was there anything new? Was there?
Some of the things that he knew, most of the things that he knew, he was right on point about the things that he knew, and that was great.
All
But
right.
that was the hill of beans. We're not Khazarian Jews. We're Hebrew Israelites.
I don't think he said we were Khazarian Jews,
And
but
he said they were our brothers.
he gave an ex.
And I'm telling you, if you're a master of Torah, you know good and well that Esau did not come out white. And
He didn't say. He never said Esau came out white.
Yes, he did. He related to that when he started talking about hairy and red.
But he never.
So and so. But yeah, Esau did not come out
Ima,
white.
he never said Esau. He never said Esau came out white. And when
you need to go back and see, I'm very good at
no, I know. Listen, I understand what you.
No, you have to understand. You have to understand as well. I'm very good at comprehending language, and I understand when someone is saying something, and I understand when they're just elating to something, not really coming out with it, but elating to it. And I'm saying, go back and read, listen to the video. That's what you need to do.
Ima,
because he did do that. Now,
Ima, can I just explain? Can I get a word in? He said.
Go ahead.
All right, can you and just like I just want to get a word in. He said that Esau was not called red because of his complexion. He said Esau was called red because of the pottage. He said Esau was hairy. That's what he said. And if we go,
heard exactly what he said. And that's what I'm saying. What you just said now is relating to something different. Where did it say that he was called red because of the pottage? That's just somebody's ideology. And what that does is that take away from the fact of the red skin. And there's plenty of people of melanin color with red skin. See, so.
All right. So I want to get back to this point. And just playing devil's advocate, going back to the point, and that's just a terminology because I don't believe.
It's time for you to come home now.
I just want to play devil's advocate. I just want to ask you this question, right? No, I haven't been doing that all night. I let him speak his.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question.
All right.
And I want to let it go after my question.
All right.
Out of all the things that's been going on since everybody started this ball game in the 1800s, because this is not anything new.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
All right. Where are are we now? Have we progressed or have we regressed?
Since the 1800s from now?
Well, everything. We had the 1800s, we had the 1920s, the Renaissance, we've had the 1960s, we had the 1970s revolution, and now we're here in the 2016, and my question remains the same. Have we progressed or have we regressed?
I think we in some instances we have regress, and in some instances we have progress. How's that answer for you?
Okay, so then answer the question why and fix that. That's what we need to do.
You finish and you done? You finish? Ema, you finish and you done?
People on here, huh?
Are you finished and you done?
Am I what?
Are you finished or are you done? Are you finished and done, or you got something else to say? Because I want you to get it all out. What I want.
I just told you.
So you want me to fix it now, or you want me to talk about it now?
No, I'm not saying talk about it. I'm saying fix it. You can't talk and fix it. You have to actually fix it. What I'm saying is we have all these people, and they keep on to come up with all these different things about what they know and all this different stuff. But hey, they out here killing us because we're not organized. We're not doing anything. And going into Judaism, we've been through that already. So that can't be the answer.
I don't think he's trying to turn us to be. I think.
I'm not talking about him individually. We're talking about a movement. Everybody's a part of an organization. Judaism is an organization.
All right, but I'm not sure he's trying to.
It's not funny. This is serious business.
But Ema, I'm just trying to explain that the man came and gave us a lesson on the history of Israel. I never in his teaching did it come across to me that he was trying to change me to be Jewish. I never got that.
I ain't saying nothing about you. I'm talking about the overall conversation and the overall benefit and the overall disadvantage of the conversation, just like everyone else. Now, I might not be saying what you guys want to hear, but this is my thoughts on the matter.
Oh no, but Ema,
just like everyone else.
But
so I'm just giving my thoughts. It's not about you. You haven't did anything. I'm just saying in general, this is what I see.
All right, so I you're entitled to your opinion. I'm sure that there are other people that feel the same way that you do. I hope you don't hold this against me if I bring the brother.
Why you keep talking about you? I'm going to come up to New York now. I'm not talking about you. I love you. I ain't talking about you. You're just trying to bring some information out. I'm just saying we're going to have to be circumspect in the stuff that we're doing and the stuff that in the messages that we're sending out here. These people are, everybody in these organizations, they in these frats, they in all of this different stuff, and it's not benefiting us because why? We're in worse shape than ever.
You're right. Can I speak to Alba? Is Alba still up?
No, he just went to bed. He said he was so mad. He was like, I can't believe none of this. He said, yeah, I said, okay, all right, sweetheart. I'm gonna just go on and do my thing. They're about to make me get upset over here. So, but I love you, and that's all. I ain't got nothing else to say. But I said what I feel, and I said what's true. We're not Jewish.
All right.
Get it together.
All right. I got you, Ema. Shalom.
Have a good day.
All right. See you tomorrow. I got my brother Zion Lion. What's up, my brother? You gonna say a few words?
Shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
You can hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear, brother. Loud and clear. I'm muting my mic so you don't get that feedback.
Okay, that's great. It's always a blessing to be able to join in and hear from the family. I have a lot of respect for those that paved the way before us. The teacher who speak, Rabbi Sholomo Ben Levy, is a very, very in our community. His continuation, expertise, and teachings from the Rabbi Matthew tradition. Us here today, we're still down on the ground proclaiming our legacy. And we must never forget that. We must never forget the legacy of those that paved the way before us. I entered into the conversation a little late, so I missed some of the things that he said. But I know that there tends to be a gripe in the community, Hebrews, that tend to speak in a way that may sound like they're trying to Judaize the Hebrew Israelite community. And I really apologize, because I think that whenever certain words which may have a connotation of taboo, such as the word Talmud and Mishnah and Midrash, I think that to the untrained ear or to the untrained eye, we automatically equate those things with Judaism, is not all entire. And I didn't know everything that he said, so I can't properly respond to everything that he said. But I certainly want to put respect on that man, because he is a continuation of the Rabbi Matthew's legacy, and we must never forget that. Rabbi Matthew and Rabbi Ford paid to be here today. And not only do I wish and desire to see that legacy continue, but I also wish and desire to see those titles continue. We don't put too much respect on the title of rabbi in the Hebrew Israelite community, equate that with a Jew, which is by master teacher in Aramaic, which seasoned in Torah, young as a rabbi.
Hey, Zion, you breaking up real bad.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it like goes in and out sometimes. Like you breaking up real bad. I don't know if you're in a bad area.
Okay, my apologies. I may have had my hand on top of the microphone. Can you hear me better? Can you hear me better?
Yeah. I hear you excellent now. Your picture even came up now. Before, your picture wasn't even up.
Okay, great. All right, so let me say this again. I definitely want to put respect on those men that paved the way before, regardless of how we may view what we heard tonight. These men, by will of the Almighty, are pillars in our community, which have caused us again to stand on 10 toes today, proclaiming the legacy in the way that we do. Yes, we do separate ourselves from the European colonization of Torah, for lack of a better term. That's the way I would like to phrase it. Separate ourselves and belongs to the children of Israel. We want to. The Torah was not given to any nation upon the face of the earth, save the nation of Israel. The Torah is ours, but it is that we sometimes forget. And I think that when we hear our dear Rabbi speak about people who keep Torah as being brothers, instead of embracing the idea for the truth within it, like we look at who the person is talking about, and we make assumptions and we draw conclusions which may not totally be the picture painted by the individual speaking those truths. From the perspective of Torah, anyone who picks up the Torah, your brother in Torah is actually keeping Torah. A person who's not keeping Torah, especially as an Israelite, isn't bad. And our active of Torah, or are considered your brothers, because the Torah does say the law for the homeborn. That means
Hey, Abdel, you know what you need to do? Call me on the phone and I'll put you on speaker. It'll probably work better, because on this it's coming out real choppy.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, brothers and sisters. So I'm going to have my brother Abdel call on the cell phone, and that way we could get a clearer we could hear him clearly and what he's trying to say. Yeah, I appreciate Rabbi Sholomo for coming on tonight, and I'm going to invite him again. I think that the history is good, besides or despite what, I know people are going to have their opinions on things, but it never came across to me that he was trying to do something to try to bring us back to some type of, you see, I got two people calling me. Shalom. Go ahead, Moray.
Hey, shalom. Can I be heard clear?
Clear. You clear now. You clear as day.
And I'm clear. All praise to the Almighty, the God of our ancient forefathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is a beautiful stream from what I gather. I'm very familiar with Rabbi Sholomo and the work that he has put in the community and the teaching and his style of conveying the message to the people. He's an immense teacher, again, who comes from a very prestigious background. And we fight today not just to preserve the legacy of the Torah itself, but we also fight today to preserve the legacy of those who gave the Torah to us. So we know that we put a lot of respect on the names of Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, because just like the book of Micah says, these are the people that the Creator sent. And the Torah we know came through Moses. So we put a lot of respect on Moses, even though he is not the author, per se, of the Torah. The Creator is the author of Torah. But we put great respect on the name of Moses and the legacy of Moses simply because he was the giver of the Torah. So we put a lot of respect on him. And today, the leaders in the community, or the pillars in the community who have preceded us by so many decades of being in this truth, many of us awakened to their voices in Torah. So we must never forget that while critique is necessary, because that is what brings about edification, you must still never lose sight of the respect for the legacy of those who actually spoke Torah to you. Because if it wasn't you, it surely was your teacher or your teacher's teacher that was awakened by these great men that the Creator ordained that his words come through. So again, we want to be very, very careful when we examine and we scrutinize these individuals. And we must never forget that the Creator himself puts great respect on those who are called to stand before him and speak his truth to his people. That doesn't mean that everything that they say we may agree with. But again, the respect level has to always be there, and I want to make that extremely, extremely clear. I have a lot of respect for the Rabbi Matthew's tradition, which I've clearly been extremely redundant in conveying tonight, although you might be hearing it clearly now. Again, these are the individuals that paved the way. So in a nutshell, my message, my contribution that I would like to share tonight is to open our eyes up and our ears up to the words of those who precede us in years of Torah study and application. More importantly, application. The difference between our community as Hebrews and the religious community of the world is that the application of Torah sets us apart from anyone who has a God concept. Most people who have a God concept don't follow a divine legal code. We do. When you apply the divine legal code which set in motion the creation of heaven and earth, you are aligned with the Almighty himself. And those who spoke those truths into our ear that the Creator willed them to do so, we must always take very, very special care to preserve their legacy and put a lot of respect on their walk. So, I personally trod on light ground when I look to critique the elders that come before me, because these are our pillars, and we must be very, very, very careful of how we critique them. Again, I do want to make something extremely clear. We separate ourselves 100% from European colonization of the heritage and culture of Torah. I don't want that to be misunderstood at all. The Creator gave the Torah to Israel, who are us, and it is not the Khazar. It is not any European Jew. Any European Jew who picks up Torah and applies it, I applaud them. But that's as far as that goes. I don't put the same kind of respect on them keeping Torah as I do on my own people, because I think it is just common sense to have a deeper appreciation and love for one's culture and one's own people. So I will always put my people first. But again, from the perspective of Torah, anyone who is keeping the Torah is your brother. And albeit true that the Torah was given to the nation of Israel, it was given to us so that we should give it to the world. And we must never, ever, ever forget that. I'm not sure where in the conversation the term Talmud may have come up, Chief Uziel. So I can't speak on that.
He referred, he made a reference to the Talmud when he spoke a quote from the Talmud. You know how the Talmud has sayings, and he said like a saying that wasn't nothing crazy, but you know.
Well, let me say this. We know that wisdom is the principal thing, according to the book of Proverbs.
Right.
King Solomon says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. But with all thy getting, get you understanding, right?
Right.
So let's talk about some sayings for a second. I know about 99.9% of the Hebrew Israelite community uses this phrase, many are called, but few are chosen. Many in our particular community who are described today as being non-Messianic also use that phrase. I grew up in a temple that spoke that phrase almost on a weekly basis. Many are called, few are chosen. But guess what? That phrase comes out of the New Testament. Should we negate the wisdom in that phrase because of where it comes from? Or should we embrace the wisdom in the phrase? Let me say it again. Should we negate the wisdom of the phrase simply because where it comes from? Or should we embrace the wisdom of the saying or the phrase? What do I mean? When the Creator went to describe the blessing that he bestowed upon King Solomon, in that he proclaimed that Solomon is the wisest man to have ever lived, the very first thing that the scripture does is it says that King Solomon's wisdom surpassed all of the wisdom of the East. King Solomon's wisdom surpassed all of the wisdom of Egypt. If you're paying attention, if you're using comprehension, that the Torah is putting respect on the idea that the wisdom of the East also has wisdom. Or else why would it compare and contrast the wisdom of King Solomon with the wisdom of the East? Same thing with Kemet or ancient Egypt. The Torah also goes on to say, and King Solomon's wisdom was even greater than the wisdom of Egypt. But hold on now. Clearly the Torah is making a distinction between King Solomon's wisdom and the wisdom of Egypt. Yet the Torah is also still acknowledging that there's wisdom in Egypt. We must never forget these things. There may be fundamental areas that we totally must separate and negate from these spheres of thought. But do not get to a point in separating yourself from a particular faith base or thought base that you negate the wisdom in it. Remember, wisdom is free. Free. It's like air, the oxygen that you breathe. It is free. And wisdom can come to you from anyone. Wisdom can come to you from a wise man as well as a fool. Most people don't understand that. What do you mean wisdom can come from a fool? Even if it's as simple as you learn not to do as he does. For instance, there's a proverb that says, a smart man learns from his mistakes. Everyone is familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's another proverb that says, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. What is the difference between the two, fundamentally speaking? You see, on the level of being wise, you don't need experience, because wisdom gives you what's called foresight. Whereas a person who is just considered smart, they're considered just smart because they need the experience. They lack foresight. People who are operating on the modality of wisdom have great foresight. So all they need to have is to be told what is wrong, be able to see it, and they will never do it. And that is their wisdom. And then there's smart people who need the experience to teach them. Because they say experience is one of the best teachers. But the thing, again, that separates a person from being wise and being smart is that the idea of wisdom is that it grants you foresight. So you don't need the experience as a teacher because you have foresight. And this is what the Torah gives us. The Torah gives us foresight. And nations who do not possess the Torah still are smart, just like that proverb. It doesn't mean that they're not smart because they don't have Torah. They still are smart. The only difference is that Torah grants us foresight to not put us in positions that they will fall into. Saying all of that to say, yes, we know that there are teachers in our community that may quote from books and traditions that we may not all embrace in thought. But I have to always ask you a question. Is your problem with the thought they conveyed, or is your problem with the place it's coming from? And I'll answer it for you by saying this. If your problem is with the thought conveyed, then you're really not being true to yourself, because wisdom is wisdom. It doesn't really matter who it comes from. But if your problem is with the place that it comes from, then you must be reminded that the Torah itself puts respect on the idea that wisdom can come from other nations. Do not think for a single second that wisdom is limited to the people and nation of Israel. Let me move on to a further thought. A lot of us have a great sense of taboo when we hear terms like Talmud and Midrash and Mishnah. But if we were to take a poll right now and we ask the entire Hebrew Israelite community how many commandments there are, everyone's going to say 613. So my next question would be, okay, where in the written text of the Torah can you find that? And as you can hear a pin drop right now, that's what you will hear in that room. There is no place in the entire Tanakh, or what they call Bible, I'm including the New Testament, that tells you that there are 613 commandments. But I can point you to a place in the Talmud that says so. So what do we do now? Do we now say, oh, okay, since the Talmud is the source that tells us there's 613 commandments, now I don't believe there's 613 commandments. Well, guess what? You're going to be a fool, and you're also going to be wrong. Because there are 613 commandments. It just so happens that it is not enumerated in the written text, but it is expressed in our oral tradition, as conveyed in the Talmud. Saying that to say, you have to dig deeper. You have to dig deeper, and we cannot fall into the bag of or the habit of becoming puppets, where we parrot the teacher before us. Just because your teacher said that something was taboo or you should not go into something, doesn't mean that you should not do that. Your teacher is warning you against something in a particular area, which we may all not embrace. But from what I've gathered and I've learned about wisdom on a whole, wisdom itself teaches you to prove all things. Prove all things. All things are to be challenged and proved, even truth. We lack that dearly in our community. Many of us, when we enter into dialogues with people who don't believe in the Bible, we're dialoguing with them, trying to get them to understand that the expressed truth in the Bible is real. And we believe to ourselves that our evidence is Exodus chapter 4, verse 22. It's right there. God said it, so it's true. But what we forget is that these people do not believe in God. They don't really have a God concept. So Exodus chapter 4, verse 22, Israel being God's firstborn son, means nothing to them, because their modality for how they approve evidence doesn't match up with what you're doing. For us who are deep in our faith, all we need to know is that God said it and it's true. But you have to understand that that is the highest level of faith. And for people who lack that level of faith, there need be more evidence. The highest level of faith is when you do something simply because God said it. I'll give an example.
Right.
Abraham's 10th and final test was the greatest test of all. But check out how deep it was. The Creator told Abraham, take thy son, thine only son. Let me stop right there. That right there was a challenge. Because Abraham got to say to himself, wait, hold up, Ishmael is alive. What do you mean, take my only son? Wait, God don't even consider Ishmael my son? That's deep. Knowing that Abraham got a lot of love for Ishmael. That's deep. God says, take thy not condone human sacrifice. He
Yeah.
knows that. But here's what he also knows. God commanded me to do so. So in that dialogue, you never hear Abraham question the Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
That's right.
It's powerful.
That's
Why
right.
was Abraham's 10th and final test evoked and evolved in him, overcoming his own logic? The 10th and final test that Abraham approached and achieved successfully was for him to overcome his own logic and put all of his trust in God. That's the highest attribute.
Mm-hmm.
But we must remember that that is to the believer. That is not to the stranger. And
Hey, Moray, can I ask you a question?
absolutely.
You spoke about the Talmud, right? And
Right.
what do you have to say for people like myself
Right.
who believe that the Talmud is not written by us, is not from us, is not by us, and that we shouldn't add to the word of God or diminish from it? And why would we add things like the oral Torah when we were already given a written Torah that the Most High God gave us, and that those books don't have anything or don't relate to us? And where in history is it even proven that those books relate to us? What would you say to someone like me
Okay.
who looks at something like that?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is this. Let's look at some of the laws of the Torah, because we're talking about adding to the Torah now, which is a very great point. Why embrace the Talmud, a set of oral edicts? We don't have an edict or law outside of God's law. So why do I need Talmud, this oral law, as you put it? I have the written text. What a lot of people fail to realize and understand is that the Talmud itself is not the oral law. The oral law is composed in a work known as the Mishnah. It simply details how to perform each commandment. The Mishnah is not a law outside of Torah. The Mishnah is an exposition or explanation of how to keep Torah. For instance, I have some questions. When Yom Kippur comes around, many of our community is fasting. I'm hoping.
Right.
You gotta say that because not everybody.
Right.
We live in an era where some people got new moon
Right.
this day and Sabbath on this day. So I'm not trying to be sarcastic.
No,
I'm being very.
I get you.
I hope everyone is fasting, because I know
Right.
that there's so much confusion with regard to the written text that I have to make such a statement.
Right.
So let me say this. I'm hoping that everyone's fasting on Yom Kippur. But
Right.
here's what I do see when I go into congregations, especially here in New York City. I have to always speak from experience. I see brothers that don't wash. They're not taking showers. They're not brushing their teeth. I have a question. Where in the written text does it say that you shall not brush your teeth and you shall not take a shower? I did read where it says that we shall fast. I did read that it said that we shall afflict our soul. But I never came across that text that said we shouldn't bathe and we shouldn't brush our teeth. But guess what? I can go into the Talmud where the Talmud says those things.
So you saying that we were taught that from our teachers and that came from the Talmud?
Clearly, the idea that our community functions in a manner that is in sync with Talmudic traditions clearly lets you know that the teachers who paved the way for our understanding of Torah that we hold on to and apply today had to have clearly been reading those books. Or else, why do we carry out Torah as we do today, as it is expressed in the Talmud? Why do we speak about 613 commandments? It's not in the written text. Why do we not wash ourselves and brush our teeth on Yom Kippur? It's not in the written text. Zitzies. The Torah don't even tell you how to make it. It's not in the written text. The Torah tells you that you shall have fringes on the four corners of your garment. It don't tell you how long. It don't tell you that. It does tell you that you should have Techelet, which is that blue, right? But the other strings, what color should they be? There's no enumeration in the text. But here's one thing I know about the Creator. The Creator is meticulous with His Torah. The Creator don't just give you something and tell you to do it. He also tells you how to do it. So let me remind us. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 28, as Moses is coming down from Mount Sinai, just before he leaves, God says to him, you stand here with me, God speaking to Moses, Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 28, and I shall speak to you all of the commandments that you shall teach them. I have a question. We have the 613 laws of the Torah because we have the books of Genesis Genesis through Deuteronomy. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, where we can find all 613. So we have that. I have a question. Where are Moses' teachings on those laws? Maybe you missed it. I'll say it again. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verse 28, God says to Moses, stand here with me, and I shall speak to you all of the commandments that you shall teach them. We all teach in our congregation, especially here in New York City, that when Moses ascended Mount Sinai, he was in an academia. He was in a class. God taught him the Torah from beginning to end. He did not just present it to him and say, figure it out. He taught it to him. Then before Moses left, he said, now you shall teach it to them. I have another question. Where are Moses' explanations for every single law? Because what I do see when I visit different congregations across the country is different explanations on the same Torah we all supposed to be following.
Okay. Great point, my brother. You know, that the way I look at it, there's so much more to learn. There's so many more explanations to so many other things. I know that many people are going to be. I mean, many of the people who watch. Some of us are in the mode of how we learn certain things, and we don't want to learn. But my thing always been this, and my issue always been this. Knowledge is definitely is a key, and I think that even the things and this goes for just certain levels of people, but you should get to learn everything and not put yourself at a disadvantage, and you can see what's good and what's bad. You know what I'm saying? And then from there you choose what's good and what's bad, because clearly there's a lot more books out there that could be read, just like we read any other book. We read a novel or something, or we read a history book and we gain knowledge from it. I think that in some ways we were there was a disservice made to us as people, and we didn't get to learn to our full potential. And there's certain people that as our brother dropped is called drop, but there's certain people in certain situations, you know, that happen where we were left stagnant, you know, from different things, from the language, from different things. And, you know, maybe we shouldn't learn. Yeah, I was speaking about the disadvantages that sometimes we had, and in some ways the advantages of learning Torah. But I think what happened is, in some of the disadvantages that we had, is that it's like, for example, prayers. The prayers in the prayer book. What would be Shalom? Yeah, my brother. Like I was speaking about the prayers. I was speaking about the prayers in the prayer book. Like, what would be the disadvantage of learning the morning prayers and the the Shabbat day prayers. I mean, prayers are prayers. We read from the every holy day. We read from the Phillips prayer book, which is the same prayers that people read. You know, so we go, we read the Adon Olam, we read this, we read that, but then we close the book and we don't learn the prayers. It's like I always thought that was like a disadvantage. It's like if we would have learned that from when we were young, we could go anywhere and we could hang because we will know the prayers. But because everything, I just want to say this, but because everything was labeled Jewish, then it was taboo to learn just basic things like prayers. You know what I mean? And prayers, what can you find wrong in prayers? You know, so I'm just saying, as my Facebook live feed just went out because I've been burning it for a while. So if my phone is overheating, that's what it said. The phone is overheating, so that's cool. Okay. I think Facebook Live. We still on YouTube though, on the YouTube channel. So you know, I think things like that, and I think when it comes to things like that, we kind of gotta be more progressive, you know, because at the end of the day, and this is true, at the end of the day, we're all brothers and sisters. If you say that the brothers is black Jews, or they do not worship any foreign god, and that means more to me than anything else. You know what I'm saying? Right. That they don't worship any other god save Yehovah. They might call him Adonai, they might say Elohim, they might say Hashem. But I know exactly what they're talking about, because when they say they prayers, they're not going to mingle his name with anyone else. And do you think that the Creator is going to look at them and be like, oh, y'all a bunch of Jews and y'all trying to be Jewish? Or he's going to look at them as, hey, that's my servant that kept my commandment and not bowing down to a foreign god, and not bowing down to a piece of iron or a piece of stone or a piece of wood. And that's the way that I look at things now. You know what I mean? Because is you have to look past, you know, all right, the brothers wearing a suit and tie on Shabbat. I might not dress that way. I don't dress that way. I got to keep on. I'm not going to wear a yarmulke. I'm going to put a turban on. But does that make him less of my brother? You know, am I going to just keep looking at a suit and tie and say, you know, that's this, that's that, but on the other days of the week, when you're not coming to Shabbat, you wear a suit and tie to go to work.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So those are the things that kind of kept us separate. I'm willing to look past that stuff because it really, that stuff is irrelevant to me, you know, because as long as I know we're serving the same God, you were brought up a certain way. Rabbi Sholomo certainly was brought up in a rabbinic structure. So that's what he knows. He wasn't brought up in a Israelite, quote unquote, in an Israelite camp. He was brought up in a synagogue. That's where he was brought up, and that's what he learned. Like he explained, he said his love of history came from sitting under Dr. Yosef. He's seeing Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan come into his living room and talking to his father. Seeing Cohen Levy come in there. Seeing all these great men come in there and knowing that he was the son of a rabbi, the firstborn son of a rabbi, and knowing that he had to grow up following in the footsteps of his father. So when he saw his father, that's what he saw, and he followed in those footsteps. The man been doing Torah he was born in 1964. This is for, what's that, 52 years? All his life. He's only known one God. He's never bowed down to no idols. He's been a rabbi and a spiritual leader of the congregation where he's at since he was 24 years old. I mean, what can I say? What can I say about the man? The man is he got a degree from Yale. He got a degree from Columbia. Got degrees from other colleges and universities. Went to Harvard and worked on this is a scholar, you know. This is a scholar that didn't lose his way, and he still is the spiritual leader of his congregation. So I commend him for that. I thank the Most High God for his life. I definitely put respect on his name, because his name deserves respect, and I truly believe that the Most High has blessed him. And to me, he's always been good, and I don't have no gripes and complaints with him, even if we have differences, and I wouldn't even say ideologies, but in maybe certain interpretations of Torah that we might have differences in. But who doesn't have differences? Me and my brother Zion Lex, we got differences, but we get along, and we talk almost every day. So that, to me, is like, I'm past that point in my life. If people want to have those arguments, you can have them, and I'm not blaming you for it. And I don't think that is bringing us back into quote unquote Judaism, or what people want to call it. I think, like the rabbi said, each one of our schools holds their own culture and their own tradition, and we shape it and mold it. But at the end of the day, we still brothers and sisters. So that's all I got to say on that. Brother Zion, I don't know if you want to say some closing words, because we've been on this since 7 o'clock, like 7:30. So I'm about ready to go get me some ice cream and cake, and I'm going to call it a night.
All right, so I'm going to close out on this. I want to close out on this note. I want to make two very, very, very brief statements. It'll probably take me 2-3 minutes to get it out.
Okay.
We know that when these pillars in our community who have so many years ahead of us, some of the things that they say and do, we don't fathom, because it is not our experience today, because we come from a younger generation of teachers. Our teachers were students of theirs, certainly. So I want to say this. Sometimes when we hear the Hebrew rabbis in our community say things like Hashem or Adonai, we frown a bit so as to suggest our disdain for that, because we say that the Torah has revealed the name of the Creator to us. Like, why do we need to veil that? Why do we need to veil the very name of the Creator? What is the significance of veiling the name? Why not say it? First thing I would say to that is
Shalom.
I was brought up in a Caribbean household.
Hey, what's up, Davi?
And one thing I know is that you never called your parents by name.
Hey, somebody's on the line.
You know their name,
Just give
but
me
you
a second.
only used their name when it was necessary. But when you spoke of them, you used their name.
Right.
When you spoke to them, you didn't use their name, you used a title.
Right.
You said mommy or you said daddy, which is the title. So there's a difference. When you spoke of your parents, you certainly had to use their name, because you're identifying them to people that don't know them. But when you spoke to them, you used a title. You said mommy or daddy. And if you used their name, when you spoke to them, they looked at you as if to say, me and you not friends, what you doing?
Right.
What am I saying? Am I saying that we shouldn't say the Creator's name? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. But I'm trying to cause us to understand the level of respect and reverence that some people who are extremely pious have for the Creator. The same respect that you have for your parents that wouldn't dare cause you to say their name to them. Some people in our spiritual community have that same kind of reverence for the Creator. Furthermore, I will want to point out Scripture. In the incident in the book of Leviticus chapter 24 of the Israelite son, the son of an Israelite woman, an Egyptian father, fought with a Hebrew in the camp. And it says that the son of the Egyptian father, an Israelite woman, he cursed the name of God. Now guess what? That name of God that he cursed is a tetragrammaton. But guess what? The Torah says in that chapter, in that verse, it says Hashem. Right there in our text, clear as day, it says Hashem. It says he cursed the name. The way you say the name in Hebrew is Hashem. And there is no confusion in our community as to what name the Torah was referring to when it said the name. There is one name of the Creator that can be described as the name. That's the name that is superseding all of his titles. Elohim is a title. El is a title. El Shaddai is a title. Adonai is a title. El Rakum is a title. Those are titles. The Creator's name, the Tetragrammaton, that's his name. That is the name. And the way to say the name in Hebrew is Hashem. And it's right there in our book. Leviticus chapter 24. It says the son of the Israelitish woman and an Egyptian man cursed the name. If you read that in Hebrew, it literally says Hashem. So, just wanting to cause people that before you frown upon something that you may not understand, you may want to adopt a deeper understanding of your language. Because if you were reading the text in the language it was originally written in, which is Hebrew, you would have read Hashem, like we read every Shabbat when we come to that verse. You can only say Hashem when you say their name. That's the Hebrew word for the name. Lastly, in closing, I want to say this. We know that the way that we read Torah comes out of what is called the Masoretic tradition. The Masoretes are a group of scribes. They're not a family like people think. Like the family name is Maseret, and all of them were scribes. No. What is described today as the Masoretic lineage is a group of scribes throughout the diaspora that has scribal understanding of the text that we apply, the Torah. These individuals, based on tradition, knew how all of the words of the Torah were supposed to be grammatically expressed. Because one thing is crystal clear when reading the Torah in its original language: if you rearrange the vowels in any one Hebrew word, you can alter the entire meaning. You can go from Aleph, which means one, to Elef, which is 1,000, and all we did was change the vowels. I can change it again and go to Aluf, and now it means master teacher. I can say Aleph Ma'ah, and now it means 100,000. All I did was change the vowels. Why is that so important? The very same people who gave us the tradition on how to interpret the Torah as we have it today, because if not for the vowel placement that they gave us, we would not be reading the Torah as we read it today. It would be saying something almost entirely different. It is the vowel placement of the Torah that causes us to understand it. Hebrew grammar is deeply immersed in vowel placement. Where you place the vowel will determine the meaning of the word. The very same people who gave us the vowel placement are the same people that spoke of the oral tradition. And it is inconsistent to accept one part of the oral tradition and not even attempt to consider the other. And I'll close my thought there.
Torah, my brother. Like always, a pleasure, man. You know how we do. We always building, trying to bring the unification of the people and try to bring everybody together. So from different perspectives and from different schools of thought. So I got another brother on the line, Chief Rabbi Ben Levy. Chief. Shalom. Shalom. Shabbat shalom.
I know it's been a while since I did this, but I commend you for what you're doing.
Torah.
The school is full of processing information. I myself come from the school of thought, and I also come from that background of Rabbi Sholomo Levy. We all do. Any school that, in all actuality, especially in this hemisphere that we explore, we all read. We all have a second grade education, and we know how to put words together. And the understanding of our history, the Most High says, don't scatter us throughout the four corners of the earth. We are the living embodiment of that, and we see it. The same way our fathers as Ezra and Nehemiah and them had to deal with it in a time period. So where they had to separate Levites and men who were deemed for position, who had to relinquish their position because they could improve their lineage, or because they had children with women that they weren't supposed to. Which goes to show that's part of the proof that many of our fathers were all over. So to deem someone by the complexion of their skin, and to deem somebody by what you depict, they should look like, that's not Torah. Nationality depicts and determines who you are. Most people don't know who they are because most people don't get up to search who they are. So if you know who you are by your lineage, that means you did the research and you did the homework on yourself. We here in America, we go by what people deem as right, which sometimes isn't that. You know, Proverbs speak on that. A lot of us don't go past reading what we call the first 5 books. And those books were Israelite. There are books that they did not put into what we know as the Tanakh, what we know as the Bible. There are many writings that have been left out. Because it was ordained. If you look at any book that you have, a name is going to be on it. Whether you say you got a Hebrew, you know, I hear plenty of people who come into the knowledge of self say they want a Tanakh, or they want the ancient Hebrew. And I ask many people, what is ancient Hebrew? Or you speak in ancient Hebrew? They don't know the difference because they were told this by rote. They didn't actually sit and learn it, and it wasn't passed down. One of the things that we got as a youngster was that we were taught etiquette. And the etiquette that we was taught, we learned by teachers teaching you and showing you where to go and how to find and research information that is correct. Today, most of our people are what you call freestyling. And why I see that is that's what causes a lot of confusion. So when you hear someone speaking, you may not necessarily agree with what it is that they're saying. But I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, if they convey some truth, you're going to get the truth from a historical point of view, from wisdom point of view, and from ones who were there who can relate to you what was and why it was, why they did certain things. So a lot of these books that people debate about and you want to argue about are people who are being blessed by using your identity. When I say that, I say this here. Remember this. You will never find any Jewish person calling themselves an Israelite. They call themselves Jewish or Yehudi. They will never say that they're Israel. They tell you how they view the origin of themselves is through their mother. And if you knew why they did that, you will understand why they call themselves Jewish or Yehudi. One who is like unto, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because Torah teaches us how to deal with the stranger, and deal with those who come into our borders and come around us. And what are we supposed to act? See, because a lot of things happen to us, we act as people who've been victimized. So what we do is we want to put back on them what they put on us. So let's understand something. That's one reason why God said to us, do not hate Esau. He didn't say make friends with Amalek. He said don't hate Esau. Remember, Esau had more than one son. But Amalek is the one that tried to take out a prophet. There's a reason why we're not supposed to be aligned and friendly with Amalek. Esau also come from Abraham. Israel come from Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that in that time, and we read it every week, you know, today Israelites is more like the church, the reverse side of the church, who they won't learn from. Now we act like the church in the 20th century, the 21st century. We're not the church. We have to remember one thing. We are a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Our brother said this because a lot of Israelites, you know, they don't relate to it because I'm Messianic. And I laugh at that terminology because anyone who calls themselves the children of Abraham is Messianic. We deal with prophecy. Abraham, the Most High related prophecy to him, that was going to ensure his children before he even had it. That's called prophecy. That's what he said. But see, we call it in terminology because a lot of us were not schooled. We did not learn. That's why we send children to school to learn. Our fathers had schools. This is the brother Yale just finished speaking about it. Our fathers taught. The 70 elders, the Moshe said, I wish everyone was like those two elders who began to prophesy, was taught how to deal with the people when they had issues and they had problems. They was taught how to reach them and to help them. This is something that we have to begin to acquire. The daily thing it doesn't help. What helps is when you sit and learn something that you don't know, and sometimes information you don't know about don't necessarily mean that it's wrong. What it means is you have to get an understanding of why it was used. What was its purpose? You have people who don't know who a man Prophet Cherry said he was. So Garvey was. And God used the format of making a building look like a cathedral or church, but yet he was teaching the Torah inside. Let's understand something, people. We are privy to a lot of freedom and privileges. But in that period of time, our people were being massacred. And if you acknowledge the fact that you were Yah, and you acknowledge the fact that you were the people of this book, that they was using to keep our people enslaved, as they still do today, you would have made this building look like a disguise. It's called strategy. It's war. It's things that people do when they're in battle. You have to do certain things to keep your way of living alive. If you open that same prayer book, the prayers in the prayer book are the songs that we read. Excerpts coming from the Torah that we read. But if you really indulge yourself and truly understand what you're reading, when you stay in the prayers, you will understand that you're reciting is the Torah and the songs of Garvey, the sons of Rasa, and many other writers that wrote songs towards the Most High. Because that's all they had to survive during the time period when it was picking us up and killing us by the millions.
Welcome once again to the D.C.
Yeah, go ahead, Dawi, Chief.
Say that again?
No, I said, go ahead, continue.
Oh, so this is where a lot of the misinformation that our people give. And I've been saying in my years that the Most High given me the breath of life. I've watched here in America and New York City and many other cities to where people didn't know what an Israelite was or who an Israelite was. And now these certain men, during that period of time, and you're talking about the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, men did not acknowledge themselves to be Israelites. They acknowledge themselves to be black Jews. As you still see the put in the, when you see our people in prominent places, they're still called Black Jews up to this very day. Not Israelites, because the word Israel is very powerful. This is what you got to understand. The word Israel is very powerful. It's synonymous to a great people. So to acknowledge that, they have to acknowledge all the atrocities that's been done to us. As you remember, God said He's going to cause them to do what? To acknowledge, and they're going to have to pay. Who reads this? Is it a prophecy? Is it the Torah? Is it the Most High tell you that in Deuteronomy 28? They tell you that in Leviticus 26. As you read Ezekiel, Jeremiah, I can go through the whole book. And it's verse by verse, but let's understand that the book was kept alive because we are a living people. The language itself in Greek is a living language, which means everything about in Greek is action. It's not just a language to be spoken. So when you speak it, you bring into life what you are and who you are. So it's about joining. That's what Israel is about. Israel is the stitch to bring all people together. And if you notice, even throughout our history, no matter where we live, when our people, such as Ezra, Nehemiah, Mordecai, I can name them all, were placed in prominent position, they not only helped Israel out, but they helped the people that was around as well. Yes, we got the fire in us, and it's all right that you waking up and find out who you are. It's all right that you want to do something for your people, but let's do it right. That's the reason why we're at the bottom of the totem pole.
That's right.
So let's have to know that where you are, you will be blessed. Why are we not seeing blessings? We're not seeing blessings because we're not sticking to the blueprint that was made for us.
Right.
If we stuck to the blueprint that God gave to our fathers, that He gave to us, we will flourish as a nation. Not as cliques, not as gang members, not as bangers, not as this one against that one. We will flourish because why? Every word that proceeded forth from our mouth will be your ornament for the next brother or sister or people. That is the purpose of you learning who you are. But that was the case. You can stay over here with Christianity. You can stay over here with any other religion in the world. But we got religious people. This is what our people have to realize. We're not religious.
Right.
That's one reason why we go around voting for other communities that call themselves whatever name they want for, Jewish, Israeli. They tell you that you're more religious than them. You know why they say that you're more religious than them? Because you try to keep to every word that has been written in the book, and you got to show it forth by what you do. They don't do that. They keep the name, and they push forward. And when they get what they brought forth, they go what it is that God wants them to do. They believe. The Most High said He's going to get Gaza out. What do you think they're doing? So never mind what they're doing. Let them do their part, and we do ours. And we do outside of the people. We will be much better off. So don't worry about it.
Hallelujah.
I stopped a little bit, which I do time to time, because I like to know, what the people are doing. I don't really get into this. I was taught from a young age that Torah was not made to be argued. It was not given to us for us to argue amongst ourselves.
Right.
And you remember during the time of the Maccabees, it said these certain men were given a particular job because their conversation was blaming.
Right.
Which means the conversation wasn't about folly. It wasn't about foolishness.
Right.
It was about uplifting and about love. So anything that we do today is going to be about anything that we do, but it's not about trust me when I tell you, it won't last. It will not last. And I come out here because I see the work that I see the brother Israel is doing. Those two Israel said they can't listen to walk away. And truthfully, there's a lot of brothers that's in the graveyard. There's a lot of brothers that's gone. But these brothers understand it further to get the message of what he knows. And he came from a different side of understanding this religion. And y'all is doing that too. See, when people think, oh, I want you to Israelite, we'll do nobody to Israelite. Now use you as a tool to open this person's visuals. And it's your job to give them the correct. That's why I tell you. Ezra said a prayer for Yah that he taught the Torah clearly. For Yah to remember him for teaching the Torah clearly. Not for teaching the Torah his way. For teaching it clear. So if I teach you, or if you ask me a question about Torah, about Yah, and I agree with you, put stumbling block and tell you why everybody do, that's what I just do. I just convert the word of Yah.
Right.
I'm going to be accountable for it.
Right.
So this here way of life is not a person said it. Once you open up that book of Torah of God, you just step into something. And it's not a game. So for those who think it's a game, and you can just think, talk about, when Moshe said choose, no, Moshe said choose, when Moshe was actually telling you to stick to the script.
That's right.
Stick to that script. Don't get off of it. Because I know what's going to happen to y'all. So that's the key. The key is to stick to the script. As you find out information, you know, when they say when you go for a job, even when you're going for a job, one of the things that they say is to reassess your situation.
Right.
Which means don't get stuck on doing something one way. Because that may not be the way that God actually wants you to do it.
Good point. Good point.
What's the proverb? A man,
change it often. A righteous man.
A man, you will see something to be right in your own eyes.
Oh, right.
You know, but it is not. So sometimes you have to sit back and you have to look at it and say, is this really of Yah or is this of me?
Right.
So am I battling with that man or that woman, or am I battling with Yah?
Right.
We got to do that sometimes. We have to keep this so grounded.
Right. Hallelujah.
You have to check yourself. Torah is about checking yourself. Not so much about checking the next man, but checking yourself. And if you check yourself, then you realize. I'm going to leave you with this one thing. I'm going to leave you with this one thing.
Okay.
When you read from Genesis to Malachi, every Israelite, every tribal man did not know man or woman. You will never know every Israelite on this planet.
Right.
One thing that brings us and holds us together is one, is the mere fact of name, which we all call ourselves the children, the name Israel. Children of Israel.
That's right.
So Torah is the other thing, is the second thing that brings us together as one.
Right.
Which is the Torah in itself, because it teaches us how to deal with one another.
Right.
That's one reason why the Torah tells you, if you may not like this brother or that sister, but you see an ox on his face. They ain't just talking about an ox. They're talking about anything that's in line with the brother and sister.
Right.
And give it back to them.
That's right.
See, these are edits, these are edits for us to be able to deal with one another, as they say, we call every name that's been vulgar for civilized people.
Right.
The Torah was made for people to live civilized.
Right.
Be able to deal with the intellect beyond the flesh. And this is something that we all have to guide ourselves with, and we know that.
Right.
That's why we would like to see, as you read, if everybody comes to the city, and they ask, and they might say, from which art thou? Because they don't know.
Hallelujah. Todah.
I'll leave you with that, and I say Shabbat Shalom, And then God continue to bless you with what you're doing, and so that people get something from it. All those that do tune in and ask them questions, that they actually get the true answers that will help them in life, man. But that's what this is about.
Hallelujah.
You might hear something today and be able to go on somewhere.
Hallelujah.
So I agree with that, and I say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Get a free time, you can give me a holler, brother.
Yeah, definitely. That's for everybody online that's on. Chief Dawi Ben Levy, he's the son of the original Chief of Chiefs from Congregation Ben Azakin, one of the founding members of Congregation Ben Azakin, or one of the beginning members, Chief of Chiefs Joshua Ben Levy, who's also who he did a lot of things between Ben Azakin and Hashaba Yisrael, and he's still a walking encyclopedia, still alive, in his 80s, and the man has a lot of history. So I'm trying to also get him documented on film and trying to get his history, because he has a lot of connections when it comes to Abba Bivens and a lot of other prominent Israelites that walked on this earth. And he witnessed it. He was there. He's seen it. So he's a primary source, not like getting hearsay from a second and a third party. This is actually somebody who was there, who saw it grow. And this is his son right here, Chief Dawi Ben Levy. May the Most High God bless you, my brother, and thank you for the kind words, and thank you for the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you brought forth tonight.
Anytime, my brother, anytime.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Moray, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hallelujah. So I know you say your closing words, so at this time, I'll tell everyone online it was a great night. You know how it is with building and in coming together. I'm just going to part with this. And coming together is always going to be things that we're going to probably bump heads about, and we're not going to all see eye to eye. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand one thing, brothers and sisters. As long as we're serving the same God and we have the same aim, everything else will work itself out. So let's not argue and fight over things that we could resolve, because the main things is serving God, keeping his commandments, for that's our whole duty. Hallelujah. Blessed be. Catch us again in the morning at 10:30, between 10:30 and 11. We're going to have our morning Shabbat services. Hoping and praying that everybody comes out and listens. Hope that if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. I should have been saying that, because we lost a lot of people. But subscribe to the YouTube channel before you go off. Don't forget to support also the channel. Hit the support button whenever you can. I'm not telling you to break Shabbat, but whenever you can, come back and support. We're going to try to schedule the rabbi to come on again to do another part, and he's willing to do it. So I just, it's time to bridge this gap between the communities. It's time to bridge. I'm going to try to get Rabbi Capus Fune, see if he agrees to come on and do a talk. He's also Michelle Obama's cousin. So I'm going to try to get him on and see if he could come on with us and speak to us about Torah, and we could get to hear from different perspective. I'm working on Cohen Mikael. I want to work on some other elders in the Israelite community, and trying to build this bridge and trying to get this thing going. Shalom, shalom, everyone. May the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob bless you all, and I will see you in the AM. Shalom, shalom.